Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
We got Dan Quack himself over here.
Yeah, put it on my bill.
Hey, buddy. And then we got Jeff Cork.
Hi.
Jokester, brilliant billionaire.
That's for off the podcast.
Great.
Save all that good material. Yeah, I don't want to brag.
All right.
Do you guys know what's special about this episode?
3 white dudes, finally.
You were really amazingly close. This is episode number 300.
Hey.
Really?
There have been 300 white dudes on this podcast.
No
Also,
way.
there are 4 of us. I'm really awesome. Dan Tack is in a league all his own.
Yeah,
We don't really talk about
I
episode
don't
numbers.
identify that way.
The episode numbers are only like in little images on the site and whatnot. But yeah, this is the 300th episode.
Really?
Not including special editions. And I did the math. If you
did the
factor
math.
You did the
in-
math. You counted better than I did.
the math.
That's Dan's job,
Yeah.
usually.
I did the math. We have done 90 special edition episodes. So technically
Holy
this is
cow.
episode 390 for this podcast that Matt Helgeson started way back in 2009.
When was the change? When was the reboot where we changed format, kind of added video and
May
stuff?
2015.
I'm sorry, what number episode?
244.
Okay. All right.
It was very impressive.
That'll do.
Oh, thanks, Dan Tack.
You're welcome.
Dan Tack, you listen to this podcast.
I do, religiously.
Good. Kyle?
I'm not quite as religious about it,
Okay.
but I do listen to it regularly.
I really appreciate it.
I have a
That's
Thursday
very
evening
sweet.
ritual. Like, as soon as I get home,
What do you
put on
do?
the YouTube, I pour a nice cold
Put on
glass.
the YouTube.
Cubed ice, okay?
With
With diet ginger root beer.
diet ginger root beer.
Yeah, diet ginger beer.
Flushes it immediately down the toilet.
And gets a good can of Pepsi.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic experience.
And you slowly sip this drink.
Yep. And I watch the YouTube version, obviously.
Sure.
Why?
I like to catch all the real expressions at the table.
Oh, great.
See what people are really thinking.
We're
And
counting
Cork,
on some of them.
alternatively, has never listened or watched a single episode of the podcast.
It's true.
Why is that, Cork?
I'm an atheist.
Oh, fantastic. So this episode of the podcast, we're covering a lot. We're covering this little game called Overwatch for, I think, the 16th time. But this time we mean it, damn it.
Oh,
This
boy.
time we have real opinions.
It's a really
None of
tiny
that
game.
soft nonsense. After that, we're talking about Kirby's Adventure on Planet Robobot. And then after that, some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, some other stuff thrown in there.
What was the last one?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Dan, you want to talk about Total War Warhammer as well?
I mean, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I genuinely want to know about that game.
Okay, well, then we'll talk about it.
Great. And then we have some emails from people that wrote into podcast@GameInformer.com. Then at the tail end of this show, holy cow, we open a door and half of the Game Informer office comes down to sit around this table and we talk all about Uncharted 4's first 10 chapters. We finally get that game club kicked off. Kyle, you were in on that. We recorded it earlier. How'd it go?
It went well. We didn't talk over each other too much. We made room for Elise, I think, who came in on Skype. Like it's hard. It was because she's coming in on a different channel, so we were very careful not to talk over her.
In a different country.
A different
No
country,
less.
That's right.
I don't know
There's
why
an
I'm
exchange rate. It's very complicated.
I don't know why
for
I'm
Skype.
focusing on that aspect of the podcast. I was just very excited that there were a lot of us, and it wasn't just insanity.
Yeah, I'm excited because it's the most people we've ever had on this podcast. But maybe for the next episode of the GI Game Club, which is June 9th, where we're covering all of Uncharted 4, maybe we'll get more. We should just get every Game Informer editor down here. Wouldn't that be cool?
Past and
Play
present.
the
Them
game
all
or
in
not.
here.
Yes, absolutely. And then we all talk at the exact same time. But for now, Dan Tack,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Prince Jacket himself.
Oh, too soon, man.
He looks
Too
like
soon.
the host of a game show in like a movie set in the future.
I think that game show is What Score Did You Give Overwatch?
Blood. Watch.
Overblood. Man, that's transcends.
I just wanted to go on that ride with you.
Dan Tack, you reviewed Overwatch.
I sure did.
Let's go. What'd you give it?
I gave it a 10. Yes.
It's too many.
It was there was a lot of internal decision making in there. It was very tough to finally decide 975, 10, 975, 10. And in the end, I was like, if I'm ever going to give a 10 to a game, this is the game that gets that 10.
The wall behind his desk has like thumbtacks and strings, like yarn, leading to different pictures. A question mark on one of the pieces of paper.
Tracer's
there.
butt is circled.
Tracer's butt is not there.
He's stroking his chin thoughtfully.
Let's go through this. So
Sure, let's go through it.
when you're playing like the beta in one of the 18 open betas that this game had, in your mind you're like,
It only had the one open beta.
you're like, okay, whatever. Well, no, on PC it was
Closed
going for
beta.
a
It was
while.
in closed beta for a
that's
long
what it is.
time, which gave us, which is why we were able to provide a score so early. Because honestly, outside of balance changes and some other stuff, not a whole lot changed in that time. Obviously,
the
we took
game.
a very long look at the release copy, but it's the same game.
Yeah, for sure. So playing that in the back of your mind, you're like, if I review this, this might be a 10er.
Yeah, it was always like okay, is it in the mid 9s? Is it a 10? Let's see where it ends up when everything is said and done.
And so walk us through this. You write the review and then you think, this seems like a 10 type number.
I actually wrote the review twice. I completely destroyed the first copy.
So it's like 2 5s?
Yeah, so I put them together, and that's how I got to 10.
Okay.
That's how we do it here.
Why? What is wrong with the first one?
I didn't like it. It was too mechanical. While I'd love to talk about the features of the game, I felt like I spent way too much time doing so and not talking about what made the game so great, which is what the current review is.
Okay.
Focusing on those points.
Yeah, we'll get to all that in a little bit here.
Yeah.
So then you hand the review over to reviews editor Joe Juba,
I do.
and he spits out his coffee and says, "We got a 10 here."
And
and then runs around.
he pulls me to the back room. And he's like, "You sure you want to do this?
Is that true?
You sure? Hey, we don't talk about internal procedures here."
And then Andy
Obviously-
McNamara walks back and kicks the tires a little bit. Like, you sure you want to do this?
Obviously, a 10 is a very high score for Game Informer. This is our 27th 10
Yeah.
in
It's
history.
One of the highest.
So, yeah. So we don't just give these out, and
It's not something we take lightly.
and it wasn't something I took lightly either. It was like I said, I did, think about it for a very long time before settling on it.
And what pushed you over the edge? Or what were you worried about?
I was worried I wasn't going to find the fortitude to give that 10, because giving a 10 is just like, what am I making? I'm going to make a statement here, like there's not going to be a better game for me ever, which is ridiculous, obviously, but like,
Yeah, Dark Souls 4 will come out pretty soon.
right, I don't think Dark Souls, well, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
I thought they were done with Dark Souls, right? But yeah, it really is the pinnacle of what I've played in a very long time.
Well, instead of describing Overwatch, I think the way to understand it is I have a list here of all of Game Informer's perfect 10s.
Okay.
And I'm going to read them off. You tell me if Overwatch is a better game than these games.
Is this really going to happen?
This is really going to happen.
Okay.
This is Dan Tack's personal opinion.
This is insane because we're going to be grading this against like stuff from 20 years ago, right?
That's why it's so good. I love it.
First perfect 10 we gave, Super Mario World.
Is Overwatch a better game? We're comparing apples and like what's
10v10. 10v10.
I'll give it to Super Mario World.
Okay.
All right.
It's an
Tony
ultimate
Hawk's
classic.
Pro Skater 2.
Yeah, I'll give it to Overwatch.
Metal Gear Solid 2.
I give it to Overwatch.
All right. Wow.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
I give it to Overwatch.
Metroid Fusion.
I give it to Overwatch.
Wind Waker.
Man, I'm gonna get killed for this one.
Careful.
I'm surprised that's the one that's giving you the most pause.
That's
it
a good
seems.
one. Yeah, I'll give it to Overwatch.
All right.
Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal.
I give it to Overwatch.
By
Even
the way,
with that punny name?
It's a good name.
Cork, feel free to weigh in on any of these that you are just flabbergasted we gave a 10 to or anything like that.
Okay.
Halo 2.
Okay. I was like,
Halo 2? Halo 2.
it's a different gas leak office or something, right?
Halo 2, Dan
If you
Tack.
would have said
I love Halo 2. I played a
would've gone
lot of
with
Halo.
Okay.
I would give it to Overwatch over Halo 2.
That was the first multiplayer Halo, online multiplayer Halo. Got to keep that in mind.
Right, but we were playing.
Yeah, LAN parties,
Yeah,
baby.
we were playing in the same room back in
I
those
did
days.
play those
man.
too. We should have an Overwatch LAN party.
We should have a who played multiplayer shooters more thing, and we could just talk over each other. That'd be great.
Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube.
Yeah, I'll give it to Overwatch.
Resident Evil 4 on the PS2.
Okay, well, that fundamentally hasn't changed the title.
that has the Ada Wong
It does have Ada Wong stuff.
Okay, still, yeah, we'll give Overwatch. Still.
All right. God of War 1.
Oh, man. That was a defining game.
It's true. What did the final
I like that game a lot, but I'm
Yeah, I
going
do
to say
too.
that seems crazy. That
For
the record.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Overwatch, yeah.
All right. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess 10v10. Which 10 takes it?
Just got the wrong Zelda on there for the 10, so I'm going to go with Overwatch.
Okay. I forget who reviewed that. Anyways, BioShock. BioShock 1.
I give it to BioShock.
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
right now we have
interesting.
Super Mario World. What, Wind Waker?
Oh, well, he said no. Wind Waker.
Wind Waker
He
eventually
paused
went-
for Wind Waker.
Yeah, Wind
Okay.
Waker got the pause.
Bioshock has a better campaign.
Yes, it does.
Grant-
But the multiplayer is not as good.
That's true.
Modern Warfare 1. Call of Duty 4.
Oh, wow. That's a really good one.
That one has progression.
That one is like, that's why we have
Get some
modern.
new guns in that one.
Helicopters crash.
There's progression, unlike Dan's opinions.
Do Overwatch for that one.
Overwatch. All right. Grand Theft Auto 4.
Overwatch.
Metal Gear Solid 4. Guns of the Patriots.
Overwatch.
Uncharted 2. Among Thieves.
Overwatch.
God of War 3.
Overwatch.
StarCraft 2. Wings of Liberty.
Overwatch. Oh. Yeah, I knew that. If you would have said Brood War, then we would have had.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Arkham City.
Yeah, Overwatch.
Phil Kohler's Gym. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
No, don't
Overwatch.
answer too quickly.
That was the easiest one of them all, I think.
Barely get to the sky. Mass Effect 3.
3, really? Overwatch, yeah.
Okay. Link Between Worlds. Legend of Zelda.
I didn't play that one.
It's real good.
And I know it's the one that's like the
Yeah.
one that I give a 10, right? So
As an aside, you should go play that. It's
yes.
very good.
I
Ready?
should.
Last 10 we gave. was from Tim Turry, Last of Us Remastered on PS4.
Overwatch.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
like I said, I really I had to stand by this conviction. You know?
now let's get to it, because in your review you wrote, things will never be the same.
Right.
What does that mean?
This is more of like, in that case, this is more of a sort of the redefining of a genre, as Blizzard hasn't been known to do. Like, they take, Magic the Gathering, they make Hearthstone. They take EverQuest, they make World of Warcraft. They take whatever they take, they turn into the new model that is to be followed by everyone, basically.
Right.
If you don't think we're going to see Overwatch kind of clones, I mean, they're going to happen.
We already saw it with Battleborn. Let's move on.
Oh, no.
So you think like for example,
God.
like maybe in a couple Call of Duties, like the classes will be way more distinct and like people
I'm
more
keys with
recognizable?
glasses.
I'm sure someone will try a progression-based system like you'd find in Call of Duty where you unlock stuff with more of the flavors of Overwatch. It's going to be like, it's not going to be just a strict copy, but yeah, all this stuff is going to get taken and that DNA is going to form the basis for a lot of other games, I'm sure.
So you're just taking it for granted. I think it's a pretty good bet at this point, but the week of release, are we taking it for granted this game's going to do gangbusters sales-wise?
I don't know if we can do that. Can we? I mean, I'd love to. We don't have the data on that, right? So
Yeah.
I'd
It certainly
rather
seems
not.
like it has momentum. There's so much buzz. People are losing their minds. From that open beta on, it's like, holy
And
Lord.
I think that was an amazing thing that they did. Like that, they gave everyone the game basically for free just to play. And
Game
there's
of
no better way to sell it than that. Like if you want it, here it is. This is it.
And now they take it away for
Buy
a
it.
little while. Oh, you want that back? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I tried opening the beta again last night and the night before. It doesn't work. Just thought I'd-
I mean, I think that really
people know.
shows like the confidence in the product, just to let everybody it's not just a demo. That was like pretty much the full thing.
Is this, so I'm trying to think of like lessons for other game developers and publishers out there. Is this one of them? Just have a crazy generous open beta? If your game is that
you're-
good?
right? If you're that convinced that the product is that
Right.
amazing,
Yeah.
And- yeah.
If you're better than,
And-
almost as good as BioShock.
apply polish.
I said BioShock was better.
I know you did. I know. Apply polish?
Yep, I think that's the lesson that everyone should take from this game.
It's certainly polished.
Make sure it's
Polish,
good.
of course.
Make sure it's super
Make sure
good.
people like it.
Yeah.
And release animated shorts based around its
I love those two.
recognizable characters.
They're
great.
not part of the game, but I think they're amazing.
That's one of those things, just playing this game more since it came out and whatnot. It's amazing to me that like I've internalized all those characters, and it seems like a lot of people have. Like they're not that hard to memorize or remember the personalities of, because they're so well defined. And
And there's
so
21 of them, but like you remember them. They're
Yeah.
not like, it's not like another game where it's just like, oh my gosh, look at this character list of guys, and then you forget them as soon as you're done playing.
like the Rainbow Six Siege heroes, where it's like, I don't know, there was the
Right.
hammer guy. Like I got nothing.
Like they nail it. Everything from like the voices to the silhouette. Your mind makes these associations, and that's not like
yeah.
that's not just random. That's all designed intention with that intent, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So something I've noticed with Overwatch is I really love it. There's a lot to love in there. I don't know if maybe it's just because I'm still relatively early, but like I don't know how much I care about the objectives. I'm still in love with just I'm just going to use these crazy abilities and have a good time. But the objective-based games, have you had some close matches where everyone's unified and really focusing?
Sure, and I've had great situations in a team of 6 with my friends, and great situations alone. Like I was in this game the other night with just like some Reinhardt. We never spoke a word to each other, but we did like some Band of Brothers right? It's just like we kept like jumping to save each other, like just it was crazy, like some crazy camaraderie, and we never interacted with each other at all. But it was like it was understood over the course of the match that we were just gonna like bust our asses to save each other, and it was just like it was really fun.
It was a real beautiful journey moment. He died on the side of a mountain.
It was like
climbing.
a journey moment. Yeah, like that's a really great way to compare it. It's just like, and one of the things I really, really love, and I can't stress enough about Overwatch, is even when you get trounced, it's still really fun. I never sit there and like, man, this game, we lost. This sucks. I'm just like, let's go into another one. Sure, let's play another character. Let's have a great time.
For an industry that's played millions of hours of first-person shooters, it's just amazing to be playing Overwatch. Not to just fillet this game too much, but I will. But just playing so much of Overwatch, and just almost every match, there's a moment or several moments like, that's really cool. That's something unique. And like, I always have the problem where I'll jump into a first-person shooter and play a couple hours of multiplayer, and it's like, I don't have a single emotion. Nothing goes through my head. It's like, all right, I guess I'll go through these motions. Oh, watch me hide behind this crate. Whereas this,
That's not exciting.
yeah,
But what I think Overwatch does really well is it incorporates stuff from, I hate to even use the word MOBA in the sentence as Overwatch because it's got this really weird association with the community. They're like, oh, it's just some kind of MOBA, but it's not. But that big play kind of feel that comes in those, like just when you do some amazing move, because you will bust an amazing move, like shoot two guys, then like swivel around a thing, use an ability just right. And even that little moment is just like way more fun than grabbing your noob tube and blowing a guy away. You know?
yeah. I'm curious, since you played so much of it now that it's out in the wild.
Yes.
What have you appreciated in the later game Overwatch. You can even call it that.
We're so not even there yet. But right now, like, definitely I'm becoming more willing to switch. My first couple 100 hours, I think it was just I was really committed to my mains.
Yeah.
Like, obviously.
Like one from each class kind of thing?
Yeah. So I'd have people I would just strictly play. But now that I'm getting more comfortable figuring out how to do the swaps, and I think that's going to be a big part of, like, as people get into it months down the line, where people are like, not only can I play this character, but if we face X, and Y, I can swap out and we can take them to task with this other crew. Like, being able to change up your entire group composition on the fly is insane, and I don't think it's something that anyone's really exploring at this time. Everyone's just getting their feet wet right now, and I think it's still great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome on that level. It's awesome on this level. It's awesome on so many levels. It just keeps, there's layers, okay? Like, this game can be appreciated by somebody who can't even aim, okay?
Playing
like,
Reinhardt.
Sure. There are characters out there, if you're not a typical shooter person, you know, there's characters that don't require strict aiming requirements.
Junkrat's great. Just lob that crap around.
Junkrat, yeah.
I love Junkrat.
Yeah, I hate him. I hate him so much.
I hate it. Why?
Because he kills me all the time.
Yeah,
obviously.
because he's awesome.
Yeah, he's fun. Everyone's awesome in their own way.
Yeah.
Everyone's unique. It's just like...
It feels like it does that classic Blizzard thing, and I noticed it specifically with like Diablo 3, where you see all your abilities in Diablo 3, and everyone is so awesome. It's like, well, this is going to break the game.
Yeah,
you see, it's like they start with awesome, and then they balance everybody else up to that equally awesome level. Like when I play Pharah in Overwatch, it's like I'm literally just flying above everybody from this bird's eye view. They're not looking up, and I'm just lobbing rocket launchers down. I feel like I'm cheating, and I feel like every character has an ability where it's like, this is such a good move. I feel like I'm cheating.
It's an interesting point, because this is something that I've brought up. It's like, this is not strictly, but like I'm saying, with the 21 different characters, it's almost like there's sort of like 21 different mini games, because the game is played completely different on each character. Like, you can't wall climb unless you're Hanzo, and you can get up into special places. You can't fly unless you're Pharah. And like
Kind of diva.
well,
Kind of Mercy.
Yeah, kind of diva. Well, kind of Mercy, right? So you've got different mobility options, but they're all like grappling hook with Widowmaker. There's all kinds of different mechanics in play, and I think you don't really get the sense of that until you start playing some of the people that have been killing you, and then seeing their powers and seeing your powers. And then you can figure out how to counter yourself. Really, it's really interesting mechanics.
Kyle, have you been playing this?
Yeah, a little bit. I played like 7 or 8 matches in the beta, and I got the full game installed last night. So that's as far as I've gotten in the full game. But I've been enjoying it for sure.
Okay, are you gonna keep playing it? I mean,
Yeah.
you're being the big Halo fan or something like that. Do you think it's gonna scratch an itch anywhere for you?
I got to finish Uncharted first.
Okay.
And Ninja Turtles. Then I'll play some Overwatch.
And Ninja Turtles.
But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question, because I haven't really felt like I'm missing like Halo multiplayer, if that makes sense. Like, I played it a lot like in college, and I didn't really get into the follow-ups as much. So I don't know if I'm like missing like, I really want an online shooter. I think I'm just going to approach Overwatch as like, this seems like a cool game, you know? Not like I really want to play an online shooter. More like, I just want to play a good game that everyone seems to be really excited about.
Yeah, and this is the time to do it. I mean, when no one really has that high level play, it's
Right.
just, it's a free for all. It's chaos.
We're
out
like
there.
at least a month out, I think, before we start getting like here's the meta teams.
Right.
You know, 2 Reinhardts, 2 Mercies, and a Lucio. Well, Lucio's pretty. We'll see what happens with him.
Lucio's OP?
He's really like,
I never even see a Lucio.
just because that speed ability is such a huge factor, especially at like for a newbie bracket, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you been to those maps where it's like King of the Hill, right? The 1-point maps.
Yeah.
Where both teams fight over it. If you have a Lucio and the other team doesn't, you can get to that point and set up before they even get there. That's a huge edge to start those maps out.
Any other characters you would steer people towards that might be a little bit off the radar?
There are no off the radar here. That's the best part of it. I think you will find ones that you love, and then the tendency is to just keep playing them. I know I certainly had that problem with Bastion.
Break free
But
like crap.
I have broken free. Yeah, absolutely. And now I'm really enjoying myself. But it's totally fine to find a couple that you love and just play them. But know that there are others out there.
Yeah.
And enjoy them too.
I like how Tack derisively calls out the noob tube, but then is talking about Bastion being his favorite character early on. I'm just saying.
Beard stroker. What about the people out
Really
there?
makes you think.
The people out
really
there,
does.
Tack, that say, Perfect 10, Game Informer, there's not even a campaign.
Right. You know, I mean, that's a thing. But I think, like, what is the case there? That there's not enough content? Because that's ridiculous. There absolutely is. I put hundreds of hours, like, what is, you want like a time and worth the money investment? Like, hundreds of hours already into it. I'm not getting bored at all.
I guess my case.
Like, you're going to do a campaign, it's going to be like 6-8 hours. You're going to have a good time, sure, but it's over.
How would you close that suitcase, Kyle?
I
No one wants to.
apologize.
Go
No,
ahead.
all I was going to say is, like, for me, I just really like single-player offline games. And I like the world and characters of Overwatch, and I want an opportunity to explore those without having to be online and necessarily, like, engaging with other players or being reliant on other players. I want a way to experience that world where I can play by myself. That's not bots.
I understand. That's not this game. So that's just the thing. It's just not this game. That's I mean, it's really good at what it does.
Yep, you have to evaluate the game for what it has, not your dream list of what you wish it had. So,
what have they said about the future of Overwatch? What are they going to be adding?
There's going to be more maps, more characters, more modes.
More modes. Have they hinted anything about what it's going to be?
They have not really given any concrete hints, but there will be more stuff. And one of the coolest things I think about, people have said that this should have been a free-to-play title, which is insane to me because you absolutely need to have access to all the characters. And if it was free-to-play, you would have been having to deal with currencies and unlocking characters. The swapping nature of the game means you have to have access to all those characters at any given time. The coolest part about this is there's no season pass or any crap like that. They have stated...
Hey, we don't use that word on this podcast.
They have stated that all future maps, characters, and all that stuff will be provided free. So
really?
Yes. They do not want to divide the player base up with map packs and stuff like that, so they will not.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Something I really want to see from them, but also I want to give credit to them, is I love custom games. I'm a big fan of that.
And those are available as well.
They are in there right now, and I went through the options, like, there's a surprising amount of options. You can turn off different characters, you can adjust all sorts of health bars and UI stuff, and that's all great. You can't adjust, as far as I can tell in custom games, the time. You can set it so it's only skirmish mode, which is cool if you just want to duel your friends.
Endlessly shoot, yeah.
No, but it's always 25 minutes.
Okay.
It's like, I would like a 5-minute thing. And also playing obviously this game isn't built for 1v1, but it's like, I would like some narrowed down map, because 1v1 on those maps is just way too big.
I have no doubt that we're going to get like a close quarter. There's always that map, right? I'm sure we'll see one eventually.
But it's fun to play the game the way you're not supposed to play it, because I like going into these small puns and having fun with it. But last night I was playing my roommate, and I was Reinhardt and he was Tracer. And just like a Reinhardt versus Tracer battle, like this super fast character versus this slow lumbering melee giant. And he just felt like he was battling some boss from some other game, and it's so many fun matchups that you can have. Just like Pharah v Pharah, one-on-one, have at it, fly around and shoot some rockets.
And those are all like sort of microcosms of stuff that happens in actual games. It's the moment-to-moment battles and the big battles, like the moment-to-moment 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, 3v2s, all those are really cool. And then you have the epic 5v5 fights where ultimates are going off left and right, the points under duress. It's crazy good. It's insanely satisfying.
Yeah. Cork, are you into this game?
Yeah, it's super fun, and I'm looking forward to spending more time with it.
Do you have it on the PS4?
I have it on the personal computer.
Oh, one of those deals. You playing with a controller?
I plan on playing with a controller with Mercy.
So just
I like
swapping
Mercy.
it around? Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you like Mercy?
Because I like to heal.
Really?
I like to play
in
support.
a lot of games?
If there's a support class in a shooter, I like to do that.
Because you like being the underdog and nobody else wants to do it? Or
It's just a role that I'm
underdog.
super comfortable playing.
I think he likes to role play against his personality. I think is what it is.
Like Mercy is incredibly strong. Like
no Mercy is his
really
middle
powerful.
name. Yeah? I haven't spent that much time with Mercy.
She,
I really
she
like
actually had to
Zenyatta.
deal with some nerfs, I think, in the beta because she was too strong. Like she's actually like her ultimate is still like incredibly like nothing better than getting the cart all the way down there and then like you take out 2 of the guys in their team, but they kill your whole team and you just heroes never die. Boom, win.
Awesome. I love Diva. I think it's when she's blowing up the mech.
The bunny bomb.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Sure.
Okay, but I just love she goes nerf this as it explodes. It's such a
And
good
that's another
line.
brilliant thing that I brought up in the review that we haven't talked about yet. But like that they have auditory clues on every single thing, so you know exactly what's happening even if you can't see it.
Those dumb dragons from Hanzo and stuff.
Ryu talk about what
Bastion's horn. What does Bastion do? He goes like, "Ba-da-da-da-da-da," like
he does. He does indeed
tank.
when he turns into a tank. Yeah.
Perfect. Overwatch, perfect 10. Game of the year so far, Dan Tack?
Well, I gave it a 10, so I'd say so. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Done deal. Let's see. Moving on from a 10 to something in the 8 range.
To another 10, maybe.
No. Let's talk about Kirby quickly.
Yeah. It's
Planet Robobot. You reviewed this thing. Mm-hmm. What'd you give it?
I gave it an 8. It's good. It's like if you played Triple Deluxe, it feels very similar to that, and Triple Deluxe was a good game. It doesn't really evolve Kirby in any significant ways, but the reason that I gave it I gave it an 8, which is a pretty good score, is because like the last 2 hours of the game actually do something very different with Kirby that I really liked.
Is it a spoiler to say any more than that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the game doesn't come out till June 10th, so I don't even want to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't want to dive into it too much.
We'll all be 35 by then.
Yeah, but it's
Spoilers in Kirby.
It's good. Like it's a really it's that solid Nintendo platformer. It's fun. It's got good music. It's got cool bosses, and then the last hour, 2 hours of the game really surprised me in an interesting way.
Change the format, change the genre.
Kirby
Changed
Act
the
Zero.
format, I would say.
Kirby went and changed the game.
He changed the game. Yeah.
Yep.
Things will never be the same for Kirby.
They probably will.
You don't like
Actually.
that. You didn't like that line.
No,
did you,
I just
Hanson?
stood out to me. No, it's not that I didn't like it.
Robobot, I think it's how it's pronounced.
There we go.
Planet Robobot. Robert.
Cork, are you playing this game too?
I played it for a little bit, and my children have been playing it and having a great time.
Good.
My oldest, he started playing it, and I'm like, yeah, you should play this. And he said, Kirby's not really my thing.
He's a cool guy.
He put on his sunglasses on and walked out of the room.
Sunglasses have like pictures of puppies on the side. Yeah, pretty cool, dude. But then after a while, he gravitated toward it, and he's like super into it right now.
You think is it the robot angle? Because in this one, Kirby can climb inside a giant robot and look super badass.
Yeah, that's basically it. He's got the angry eyes because of North American box art. He's like,
I was surprised when I got in the mech, and then it turns out that the mech can absorb enemies' abilities and transform as well. You're not losing your Kirby
how come
abilities.
Kirby doesn't swallow the mech?
Oh, that's a good question.
That really makes you think.
And also, when he gets in the mech, it changes for no reason. It just turns into a pink mech suddenly.
Oh, that's right.
Otherwise,
He
it's
seeps
just like
his
a
body into the mech like some weird goo.
It's like a T2.
Mysterious thing. The mech is cool. I like the mech. That's like the big twist for this one is the mech. And the thing that I liked about it is like jumping into it doesn't slow you down. Because like I feel like in like 2D platformers when there's like a mech element, like you jump in it and then you're really slow and it's not as fun. But like Kirby moves just as fast in his mech as he does normally, and you can copy powers and you're much more destructive. So it's a lot of fun.
I do have one quick question.
Please.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is important. I just thought of this. If they'd teamed up the T1000 and the T800, could the T1000 have wrapped around the T800 like an exosuit?
Oh, like a shield. Like it's just like, hey, I'm your
clearly
superior.
yes.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
also, how many T1000s could combine together? Could they make like
Could
a
they-
gigantic,
Oh my god.
like end of Mass Effect 2 style
It'd
Terminator?
be like a Sandman style giant fist.
yeah, absolutely.
Really
Green
makes you think.
Lantern.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have like a dunk tank or something we can drop Dan Tack into every time he says really makes you think?
Yeah, actually, I installed the
Is this
dunk
an
tank.
Easter
down
egg? You're
here.
going to put this like a counter on the screen every time he says it?
Instead of a dunk tank, just make fun of his jacket. It'll always
It's easy to do.
I did what he said.
It's
It
right
was like
here.
a game show host from the future. What do you think that was?
That wasn't a compliment.
I thought it was.
Sorry, Dan Tack. I don't mean to rag on you.
like the
People have
future.
commented that I'm too mean to you on
They
this
have
podcast.
commented on that.
Do you feel that way?
I don't. You think I can take it? I don't
Is
care.
that true?
Sure.
But do you think I'm being a dick towards you
I don't
constantly?
know. I've never really thought about
Dan
it. too
Tack
much.
likes that stuff. He'll
does.
turn.
I've never
As
really
long as
thought
we
about
mention Dan Tack, he's okay with any Dan Tack coverage.
it.
from the
Is that
Tack
is that how it works?
Yeah.
He watches the podcast and just like swirls his, what was it, ginger ale? And he's just like,
I do. I swear this little like
Could have used a little more
I'm
tack and
I'm taking notes here.
yeah.
Glasses, one edge is just in his mouth, seductive librarian style.
This is. You
Putting
guys
on
have a
his-
camera in my
putting his
place or
overcoat.
what?
So Kirby,
Yeah. It's good
what's
times.
just playing the first couple levels? I played like the first 3 or 4 last night. It really stood out to me. First of all, that this developer's been working with this tech for a while, but like there's so much depth. And I remember like when Donkey Kong Country Returns came out, people were really commenting like, "Oh, it's so cool! You can like go into the back for a little bit and then come forward."
Yeah.
And especially on 3DS, I feel like Nintendo's been pushing it for so long, and now getting later in the 3DS's lifestyle or lifespan, lifestyle. It seems like a
golden
lot of
years.
developers are really capturing that, and this one in particular, like you're constantly flying all over the place.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in the review. It's like one of the only games in the last like 5 years that I was like consistently turning the 3D up often and like used it and actually thought it was better because it was in stereoscopic 3D.
Oh, wow.
I didn't keep it on all the time, but like
You're not a crazy person.
yeah, of course. I like to not have a headache. But like when lasers would come in and out and you can't quite tell where they intersect with the plane that you're on, like turning on the 3D helps. And it just looks cool. There's a mode where like you will hold a Dragon Ball style what is it called? A bar. What is
A Dragon Ball bar?
Yeah, that thing that Goku carries around. That
Power Pole?
The Power Pole, and the Power Pole will like come towards you, and it will interact with things in the front of the screen, so you can like knock out enemies in the foreground while you're holding your Power Pole in the background.
what's the power pull up to right now? It's
I don't know.
300 million or something, isn't it?
I think it's in the power pole position for sure. Yeah, it's doing really well. I saw you playing Kirby and with the 3D up. You look like a 90s cartoon or commercial. Whoa! Pole's coming right at you.
It was intense.
Watch out, Robobot. So we were
Robobot, please.
we were in the kitchen the other day, the Game Informer
Familiar with
kitchen, and talking a little bit about Kirby. And then old Andy McNamara, editor-in-chief, walked in, and he had a good point, which is, of all the Nintendo franchises, how is it Kirby that they just pump those out consistently?
Yeah, it's like
What
an
is-
annual franchise at this point.
Yeah, there have been so many. I feel like even the Kirby fans, like Kim Wallace, she can't keep up with this stuff. There have been so many coming out. Why Kirby of all of the licenses?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there must be a dedicated group who just says like, I'm gonna get every Kirby game because I love Kirby, and I guess they don't get on message boards very often.
Super easy to model.
That's true. It's just a pink ball. You could just use the templates like built into the software.
Better than Triple Deluxe? Because I remember you loved that game.
That's a good question. I think I like Triple Deluxe more. Because I like that I forget what it's called, but that Hypernova plant, I think is what it was called, where you could just like suck up like entire screens worth of enemies and stuff like that. That was really cool, and it had a really cool ramp up at the end where you were going through bosses using that ability.
Do you like it more than Super Mario World?
No. Yeah. Can you go,
What about the PS2 version of Resident Evil 4?
I gotta go with Resident Evil on that one.
It has
Should we
it
go down
all.
the list for Kirby? Then we can do Ninja Turtles.
We're good. Jeff Cork, I want to talk to you a little bit.
I want to talk to you.
What do you want to talk about?
I have questions about Terminator lore.
Why are you down here again?
I don't know.
Yeah, some other people
You're
dropped
funny.
out. No, you have
Barely.
an interesting perspective, and we don't want to
What's
go
that?
whole hog into full road hog into Uncharted stuff.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that's the back half of the show. But you've had an interesting trek.
Yeah.
Somebody that isn't on the game club coming up, and no one else involved with the game club is as devoted as you, and no one else did this. But you have played through Uncharted 1 through 3.
I have to say, going into it thoroughly ambivalent about the Uncharted series, because I played the first game probably about halfway through when it first came out, and it was like, this game's pretty, but the shooting is ass. Played the second one for a little while, and I was like, boy, the shooting is still ass.
Chloe is ass.
And then eventually, like, 3 came around, and I think I played the opening sequence. It was like, this jumping is not great. And it's been a series that everyone loves.
Jumping.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the jumping.
You jump a lot in that game.
You jump an
It's
awful lot.
important.
Yeah, but it's one of those games that it was like a blind spot where I'm like, I should just play this finally. Because no one will shut up about Uncharted 4 and how amazing it is. Like, Reiner got back from the cover trip. He was like, oh my God, 50 different animations for reloading. And I mimed something obscene and rolled my eyes. He's like,
you can imagine.
It was a thumbs down.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
big.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, that's a lot. But anyway, I was like, the remastered version was in the vault, and I'm like, I'll just borrow that and play it. So I went through and played through all of them, and I have to say that I like that series a lot. Even though, like, going back, the first game, the shooting is terrible. It is simply awful.
Are you bumping these all down to easy and just blasting through?
I just play it on normal.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It gets incredibly frustrating too, because like everyone knows where you are at all times, and they just shrug off headshots. And they're the guys with the armor who it's inconsistent whether or not you can take them down with like 8 shotgun blasts or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a really fun series. Like I feel it's like someone saying, hey, you know what? I think like chocolate is a pretty good substance. If you guys try this stuff, it's
But
not
the jumping
bad.
sucked.
Yeah, the jumping in the chocolate is not great. But I like it a lot. And it has a lot of problems. Like as a series as a whole. Like it's clear that I still have not played very far into the 4th one. I started that one this morning. But they have no idea how to finish a game. Like it's completely like off the rails, cuckoo bat, like just a giant monster that's not fun to fight, and we'll make a whole bunch of them. And there's like, but like
This is on a whiteboard somewhere.
not fun to fight. Underline that a whole bunch of times. Okay, I think we got it.
Programmers.
Okay, let's just bullet sponges, and we'll make them do a lot of damage and make them super weird and mobile.
Let's
I think
make him
you-
like twice as tall too.
That would be great.
You called them you called Naughty Dog the Stephen King of game developers.
Yeah, where
not
it's
being
like
able to
they
finish
tell
it.
a good story, and then just the ending is like the end. Cell phones. But yeah, it's great. Like playing through the second one, especially, and then the third one is just like it's stunning the ridiculous stuff that happens and how incredibly like detailed things are that shouldn't be.
Even
like,
on last gen. Yeah.
like the third one is just gorgeous, and I was like, while I was playing it, I was keeping in mind like the 4th one is supposed to look even better. I haven't seen a whole lot of it, and then I started the 4th one today. It was just like it's astonishing.
People, I think, especially with Uncharted 4 coming up, people obviously praise 2 a fair amount. There's been a growing trend of looking back on it and saying 3, what a whiff.
I don't get that at all.
Okay.
Because I've just played through them in rapid succession. Within the past couple of weeks, I played through all of them. The third one, I can see why. I can't see it, actually. I'm gonna backtrack. I don't see why people would say that.
I agree. I remember being impressed.
It's great.
I think it was the disparity between 1 and 2.
Right.
Like that gap was much wider. So then when the gap between 2 and 3 is a lot smaller, and I think that's why I was a little underwhelmed by 3.
But
I was so impressed by 2.
That's not 3's fault that 2 was great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that the first one was so poor in a lot of ways too. Like the remastered collection, if you are at all interested in Uncharted, whether or not you've played it before, I highly recommend that. It's a great collection. It's got some pretty cool stuff in it too with like, as you're playing through, it keeps track of a lot of your stats. Like, hey, here's a leaderboard that's constantly updating with how many headshots you've gotten and that kind of stuff. And then you realize like it does like reinforce the thing that I've always had, which is clearly not an original thought, but like this wise-cracking psychopath that Nathan Drake is.
Wait, slow down. What do you mean?
Just like at the end of it, I have killed the course of the 3 games. I added it up. I killed more people than some of the bigger terrorist attacks. Right. He was yucking it up the entire time, though. Like, ooh, that's gonna hurt. And he's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, he's a very charming character in the cutscenes and some of that stuff. But then, like in game, you're just kind of like, just maybe dial back that enthusiasm. Where are all these guys coming from, too? But whatever. It's a very fun series.
But it's a good collection.
It's a great collection, and I'm super excited to get into 4.
Good.
I'm not expecting to like Uncharted as much as it, because like I said before, going into it completely ambivalent.
Hey, Uncharted, check it out, y'all. Stay tuned. We're going to talk a lot more about it. Hot take. Kyle? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants in Manhattan.
I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit on the podcast months ago because you got to play
Based
it.
on like a preview that I played where I got to play like the first level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that pizza, like reviving yourself by eating pizza minigame that I thought, Kyle's making up some stuff again. Here we go.
It goes.
I can confirm that's real. I've been playing with him.
Yeah, Cork's been playing with me.
How is this game?
It plays really well. Like moving the turtles around and fighting with the turtles and jumping on the walls and like gliding through the air, like all that stuff feels really great. But then I I'm still playing through it for the review, so I haven't like I haven't beaten the game yet. You know, I don't have my final conclusions there, but like I'm sort of the sort of mission structure and like some of the level designs are rough.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, like it's weird because the first level you play is like an open city, so you can jump from the roofs to like the ground. And you have all these like tools that you can do to travel.
Turtles can climb really well.
Turtles can
buildings.
climb really well.
Yeah.
They have parachutes under their shells that they can use. They can grind on rails. I was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. And then the second level takes you underground and like into a maze, and you can't use like half of those abilities. Like there's no place to grind. You can't climb walls anymore. It's like, why did you give me all these fun tools and then like take away half of them to put me in a boring maze that looks the same no matter what pathway I take down?
So it's like a callback to the NES.
I guess, yeah. And then that sort of that level repeats like later as you play through the levels. It's just like, except there's more water on the ground.
But you get pizza.
You do get pizza.
Right.
Yeah, the thing that Cork is referring to is like the way the game works is like you have 4 turtles. And
Slow down, Brainiac.
Okay. And if you get knocked out, you can get revived. But if someone is not able to revive you, you go underground and you have to eat pizza.
You go underground.
Yeah. Why are you confused by this?
Where you go when you die?
Yeah, exactly.
I always go underground before I eat pizza.
Splinter's there motionless. He's not animated at all. He just sits in the background and watches you eat pizza. And you have to like tap X to eat pizza. But if you tap X too fast, you burn your mouth and you have to drink soda. So you're underground for longer. And the thing is you want to make sure if all 4 turtles end up underground eating pizza, that's like it's game over.
This is the most ridiculous.
Doing the thing they desperately want to do.
Yeah, that's how
There's soda too, man. This sounds great.
Yeah, I actually like that aspect of the game. I think it's,
What?
I do. I think it's weird and funny, and I think it's a good metric for the progress that you're doing. Like if you're down there eating pizza and you see another turtle drop down and he starts eating pizza, and you see another turtle drop down and he starts eating pizza, then you're like, oh, we're screwed. Like, we got to make sure that somebody can stay alive up there. And it gives you like, it's a funny visual way to track your progress and how you're doing.
I started this game last night, played a little bit of it. Boy, they don't want you to forget that these turtles like pizza.
It's very important to their
big
character.
slices.
It's like, man, they all have defined personalities. I mean, Nathan Drake himself, Nolan North
right.
is Leonardo.
I think is he doing his role again from the 2007 film? I think he played Raphael in the 2007
Oh, really?
film. Yeah, I
What
could be
a
wrong about that.
confusing mess, taking over for Cam Clark, the most famous Leonardo of all time, Liquid Snake himself. But boy, it's like they just have that nugget of, I guess, Turtles like pizza. Let's constantly talk about it. And there's like, pizza. Let's order 6,000 pizzas.
Everything begins and ends with pizza when it comes to this take on the Ninja Turtles.
What a bold new take.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. Cork, what do you think of this game? You've been playing it.
Played
Co-op
about,
with
3 or
Kyle?
4 levels. I think I like it more than you do.
You definitely seem to. And you should plug your ears because I don't want to taint your
it's okay.
your opinion.
Yeah,
this
you're
game is
fair.
not great.
Cork does not like it.
It's like these huge worlds that look so similar. There's nothing visually interesting about them, like the sewer stuff in particular. And the way that it's structured is you have this meter at the top that's like filling up as you do these little side missions. And then ultimately, when it's all the way full, you fight the boss. Well, you're walking around. April O'Neil's constantly bugging you, and she's like, "Hey, there's some enemies. Go get them."
Yeah.
And then
The missions are randomized, kind of like what you get sent to do.
from like one of 3 different
there's only a
things.
few.
And you find them, and it takes forever to get to the guys that you fight, and then they like pop up, and you fight them for a while. They take way too much damage, and then you fight the boss, who typically has 7 health bars that you have to whittle through, and it's just like they're meat sponges. They're not interesting boss fights with like multiple phases.
Meat Supreme, please.
Yeah, that's my contribution to that. I don't know. I'm not having a great time with it.
I like the challenge of the bosses, but they don't really have any like patterns necessarily. It's all about just making sure like at least one turtle is alive, and then like just doing your combo special moves as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like there's not really like, oh, make sure you dodge that move or make sure you counter that move.
They're
It's
just not
like,
interesting.
Yeah, they look interesting. I think they're cool characters.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's interesting that somebody was saying in a comment that the visual style is based on the comics, but it's just cool to see Platinum Games, the developer, have a new take, not to make it look like the movies, not to make it look like anything else specifically. Like some of the designs I think are pretty cool.
It's nice to look at, but then you have to play the thing. It's not like
Right.
it's a cartoon.
But like with a lot of Platinum games, it certainly feels like they started with combat animations, which I think look great.
Yeah.
And then built out a lot of these systems and then just threw it all on top of you. Like starting that game, it's just like, not that it's complicated, but just the way they introduce you to what you're doing is just a mess. It's just a shotgun blast of here's some game, take it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like the highlight of the game is certainly like controlling the turtles, and then everything else is like maybe kind of interesting depending. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what my review says after I think through it some more. I guess.
And
but
keep playing it.
there are some things to admire about the game. It's not like a total disaster,
Right.
But it's not like the Ninja Turtle games. It's not the Ninja Turtle game we've been waiting our whole
We'll
life
say
for.
though, people have been online saying that it's 3 hours long or something.
Yeah.
I wish, because it seems like it's gone forever.
Huh.
Yeah, there's like 8 levels, and each one has taken us at least 45 minutes, I would say. So I don't know where that math is coming
Yeah, I
from.
saw some people in Steam reviews complaining about the length. Also, I saw some people, there's one review, at least on Steam, that made me laugh, where it said, the fact that they say or promote the angle that this was developed by Platinum Games, that should be considered false advertising.
That's not fair.
Because in his mind, Platinum Games is infallible. And so they release a game that isn't perfect.
Is it like, what is Touchstone? Is like the Disney sort of offshoot. It's like their other production company where,
like
they can, where they
Miramax?
can dump like their crappy movies, you know?
Okay.
They want Miramax, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Platinum
so
has a different name for their crappy games.
Right. That's Platinum. This is Platinum Games. Star Fox
brass.
Zero is not connected to it in any conceivable way. Boy, the music in that game, I am not a fan
I
of.
think it's just Muzak. Like I think it's just like it's like the metal equivalent of Muzak.
Yeesh. It made me, as sick as it is, it made me excited to actually kind of watch those new Michael Bay produced movies. Because I haven't seen the last one, and I'm kind of excited, just like, instead of struggling to play through this Turtles game, be like, I love the Turtles so much. They're such a huge part of my childhood. I am now convinced that I want to sit down for 2 hours and watch some new gritty take on it. Right, Dante?
No.
I
Okay.
could make an argument for that first film if you want to do a separate segment. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's
Okay.
kind of fun.
It's just easy to
Really
crap
great.
on Michael Bay.
Yeah, well, he's just
Very
a producer.
easy.
If he was a director, I would hate that movie. But since he's just a producer, it's great. He wasn't that involved with it.
Right, naturally. Hey, Dan Tack,
Hey, what's up?
we should talk about the next game from the team that made Alien Isolation, Total War Warhammer.
Total War Warhammer. I don't know why they didn't just call it Total Warhammer. You know,
I know, it's
gotta get
right
that
there.
franchise blurb in there. It's Total War.
Hey, baby, it's branding.
I agree.
You gave this game an 8.75.
I did. It is probably the best. It is the best Total War game that I've played. Probably. Period.
Okay, this is
Period on
RTS.
Well, yes, and it's yeah. and turn-based during like sort of you know how it's a mix, right?
I don't know much about it. Like I remember Total War Rome came out. Was that the first one?
There might have been some before that.
Okay, but
there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I remember it got really good reviews, and as an RTS fan, I was like, oh, I should check this out. And I've never really checked out a Total War game. Describe what they're like.
They are extremely complex. They are for enthusiasts for sure. These are not just like, hey, I played Civ 5. I'm gonna go play this. This is way more deep. Like,
okay,
there's lots of complex stuff going on in the city building and like leveling up and tech trees and all this other stuff. Tons and tons of stuff. Many menus and diplomacy and all this stuff going on top in the overworld. And then you have the battles themselves, which are RTS. And like, you know, you've got bunches of units. You have to like, you know, are they going to flank? Are they going to fire? You've got ammunition. And then this one actually just raises the bar completely. Like, I know a lot of fans of this franchise really like the historically rooted stuff.
Yeah.
But just having flying units and magic spells and giant spiders and all this other crazy stuff in this backdrop, it blew out all the other games out of the water for me.
You don't have to be a Warhammer fan. It's just a good excuse to kill some orcs.
Sure, I would say that if you're a fan of Total War, you'll like it. Unless you're, again, I know that there are a lot of historical purists that play those games to reenact those sort of what if this happened and what if that happened and all that stuff. But you know, I was getting I was getting a little weary of using axemen and trebuchets so much. You're like, you know, okay, you go from fight to fight. There's an axeman, there's a spearman. I get it. It's fun to hack people apart like that. But like with all this crazy stuff and 4 very distinct, 5 if you count the Chaos race.
Chaos?
Chaos, a faction in Warhammer.
What are they like?
They're like the Horde. They play completely differently. We haven't got a chance to play it yet. They were not provided with the original, but you get it as free DLC if you bought the game.
Oh, weird.
Early the first week, I think.
Okay.
Or you pre-ordered, you got it for free.
Otherwise, we got orcs, humans.
Greenskins.
They're called greenskins?
Greenskins, yeah, it's specific.
I don't know anything about Warhammer.
Greenskins, the Empire, human.
Okay.
Vampire counts and dwarves.
Vampire counts?
Yeah, and they all play very differently, which makes this Total War like really awesome. Because even in the other Total Wars, yes, the things play differently, the factions play differently, but like in the end, a dude with a sword is a dude with a sword. Here, you've got just absurd Warhammer units duking it out and like crazy rules, like, you know, undead units experience no fear, which is like, so they no morale. They don't care. They'll just keep fighting and tearing things apart. While other units are obviously they're going to get scared and flee after suffering big losses. And there's all kinds of stuff like that. Like all the races play completely differently, and it's really refreshing.
What about fans out there of Warcraft 3 that want a new Warcraft RTS?
This is not like that.
I know it's a completely different type of game, but do you think there's any itch that'll be scratched?
I would say that this is a game worth exploring for sure if you're into like deep strategy games. I don't know if an RTS, I don't. Well, theoretically, yes. Technically, it is an RTS. I don't put it in like, you know, this isn't like Dune or Warcraft or any of these or StarCraft. It's not an RTS, right?
Okay.
There are other elements in play here. Like it's also at the same time you're like sort of like Heroes of Might and Magic, moving your hero across a board, destroying settlements, taking over settlements, researching technology. Sort of a mesh of civilization and like just giant war board games.
Sure.
Right? Together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thumbs up.
Absolutely. Like I said, awesome Total War game, and an unusual thing. I wish it wasn't, but technically sound on release. Like no crashes. I mean, those games have a unfortunate legacy of like rather subpar launches in terms of bugs and glitches. This one didn't have any crashes while I was reviewing it, which is insane.
Right on. Sounds great.
Yeah.
You guys want to move on to emails?
Yes.
Cool. Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We got some emails from the community and the listeners and the watchers out there. Watchers on the wall, like Dan Tack over here.
I'm not getting what?
I don't know. But anyways, people wrote into podcast@GameInformer.com. They have some burning questions for us, and we're going to choose our favorite email of the week and then ship them out the nicest thing you can possibly imagine, which we all know is Jeff Cork.
What are you sending out these days? I don't want to like commit to anything you can't.
I think this week it's my jacket.
It's
your
Dan Tack's jacket.
Oh my God.
There we
Call
go.
the Dan Tackett.
Michael from Reston, Virginia. I haven't owned a Nintendo handheld since the Game Boy Advance SP. There are quite a few titles on the DS and 3DS that I'd like to get around to. I recently saw the 2DS received a price cut to $79, making it a very attractive price. Would you guys consider the 2DS a viable option? Would it be worth the $80, or is a half measure not worthy of my money? Perhaps relevant information. I no longer own any Nintendo consoles. I do own an Xbone, PS4, and Vita. And I have a confession, I've never played a Pokemon game. Please do my thinking for me. Is this a dumb idea?
Did he write X-Bone or was that you?
He wrote it. I didn't say it.
Not a fan of that.
All right, I'm gonna jump
Sorry,
in
Michael
here.
from Reston. You're not getting email of the week.
I'm gonna say no half measures on this one.
Don't go 2DS.
Yeah, no, get the latest.
I would get
Not the new 3DS, just the 3DS.
Well, actually, that's a good point.
3DS.
So you can play the Super Nintendo games.
There is a 2DS in my home, and it's a great handheld. I like it a lot. It feels nice in your hand. And 3D you don't really use anymore, so it's not that important. But
Right.
the new 3DS is a very good point because it runs games better. And I don't know how important the virtual console is to you, but that makes it available.
If you
get a
care
2DS
about virtual console
Yeah.
stuff, maybe. But like, unless you're playing Hyrule Warriors, Xenoblade, like,
well,
don't
Super
worry
Smash
about
Brothers loads a lot faster, and you can't
Okay.
play Xenoblade without it. So,
That's true.
but the 2DS is fine. Like if you just want to play like Pokemon
For
the-
$80,
the 2DS
catching
is a
up
great
on
system.
all DS,
Yeah.
3DS games is
Yeah.
the way to go.
I don't know.
You're just disgusted by the concept of
No,
the
I'm not
2DS?
disgusted by the concept. I just think you should go the extra mile. Then you won't have to upgrade again later.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
depends how
twice as
committed you
much,
are.
though. I think.
All right.
But let's go DS and 3DS games. What should he go back to? This
Link Between
Michael.
Worlds. Take
Yep.
note, Dan Tack. Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, I got that.
Pokemon. I like Omega Ruby better than XY, personally.
Okay.
If you want to try
over
Pokemon
like Black
game.
and White.
Although you know what, he said he's never played Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's right.
Then XY is probably a better place to start. Then
I agree. I'd go XY. I say Super Mario Land.
3D
Land?
Yes,
Yep.
that's fantastic.
Sorry, not the original Super Mario Land, although I love that
a weird
game
one.
too.
Hey, that's on Virtual Console.
It's a
You can
funky
play
one.
that.
Yeah,
That's
that's true. So 3D Land, I definitely recommend. Luigi's Mansion if you like more adventure type stuff. What else we got?
I mean, you can go back, Castlevanias and stuff like that. Not Harmony of Distance. Portrait of Ruin is good. Order of Ecclesia is difficult.
Yeah.
Dan Tack, DS games.
Yeah, I play like pretty much strictly JRPGs on my 3DS.
Yeah?
So like Fire Emblem, Entry
There we
Odyssey, Persona Q, stuff like that.
Yeah, you're
But that's, if those are of interest to the individual, obviously those are pretty tailored things. But those are like, I hate the fact that I have to play those on mobile because I love those games. But like, I hate plugging it into the wall and just sitting there playing it. Like I'm like, can I have this on a console, please?
Yeah. Please, Daddy, please. Well, there you go, Michael. We got 1 no and 3 yeses.
And a pair of jean pants with a big back pocket. So you can carry it with you.
Especially if you get the 2DS, because it is a larger system. You can't close it.
And also, this is very important. If you have a 2DS, don't drop it in a car because it'll wedge perfectly under the brake pedal, and it could be a disaster.
Is this a lesson learned from
terrifying.
experience? Or?
Tyler from Philly writes in and says, "Hey, GI crew, the other day I watched your interview with Steve Wozniak from 2013. Thank you for watching that. From the very beginning, you get the sense that the guy is incredibly bright, and it's clear why he's experienced so much success. My question is, have you met people in the games industry, developers or otherwise, who have given you a similar impression after speaking with them? What interviews have you walked away from and just thought, wow, that guy girl is smart?"
Maybe Jesse Shell.
Oh, interesting.
Nolan Bushnell. I mean, there's so many smart people.
As
in
long as it
gaming,
rhymes, yeah.
dude. Yeah, like the list could go on forever. I guess those two just came to mind instantly.
Interesting.
I mean, if they're a successful game developer, they're probably pretty smart.
Yeah, like we said in last week's episode, or the week before that, they're all smarter than us, certainly. But every once in a while, like I think it's his presentation a lot too. Peter Molyneux will put you in a trance.
Peter Molyneux.
You disagree, Dan Tack?
That's your choice.
No, that I'm saying I'm getting the ball rolling with that. Okay. One that I was really surprised by was the Gears of War Judgment trip. Adrian Himmelars. After talking to him, it's like that is a thinking man. He likes breaking stuff down in a way that's impressive.
Sean Murray, smart and delightful.
From Hello Games, No Man's Sky. Yeah, very true.
Jonathan Blow, I've only spoken to him once. I think he gets a bad rep. I think a lot of people think he's a big know-it-all.
Yeah.
But he's just a very quiet, thoughtful person. You can tell that he's like doing his own thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Super great to talk
I
to.
think as far as his tone, we talked about it a ton on this podcast, but Tabata over on the Final Fantasy 15 team, I feel like he's
an awesome he's really down there, like super casual and
Yes.
and at the same time extremely intelligent.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. AJ Onuma, surprisingly, like I thought maybe he would be more closed off, but
This
he
is
was
Zelda
very cheery and like very open to my often silly questions and laughs a lot, and so that's always a good.
So that makes him smart? Is that what you're
Yes.
trying to say here?
yeah,
Interesting.
people who laugh are smart.
Okay.
great.
Is that a real
Oh, look at
name?
you, genius! Your IQ just doubled.
Jake Z wrote in and says, "Hi guys, how would you rank these various media? Shut up, Jeff Clark. Various media in order of most liked to least liked: games, movies, TV, music, podcast, books. Go.
Oh God, can you go down that list again?
Games, movies, TV, music, podcasts, books.
Probably go games, movies,
Are we gonna do this in order? Or how are we doing this?
podcast, music, books are pretty low these days. Gotta say.
I never thought about this.
Music used to be one
neither.
for me, but it has dropped significantly as I've gotten older.
Yeah. Dan Tack, I know you. Sorry, I'll start calling you just Dan.
Call me whatever you like.
I know you're a big movie buff,
I
and
am.
so I wonder if you're in the similar boat where it's like, man,
This is
but
tough.
choosing between films and games as far as my favorite
I'll go
medium.
I'll go with games, then films, then music, then books. What's after that?
Podcast,
TV's last.
Oh,
Wait,
TV,
no, TV will be
yeah.
before podcasts,
Okay,
and then podcasts.
I didn't even include
I'll
TV.
go games, movies, podcasts, books, TV, music.
Cork.
Can I look at your list here?
Please.
I'll do games. I'll go TV, movies,
Interesting.
music, podcast, books.
TV over.
There you go, Jake.
TV over movies.
Yeah, TV can tell a longer story.
TV is great right now.
You're
guys.
a big TV guy.
I watch a lot of television.
Is this just like a
The
communal
idiot
thing?
box, I like to call it.
Just watch it with your wife? Is it a big, or is it just solitary?
Both.
Yo,
It's a very
interesting.
flexible medium. That's why it's my number 2 favorite.
What's the best TV show on TV right now?
Best TV show on television right now.
And I'm talking about TV shows that's on TV.
A TV show that's on TV?
Yeah.
So it's not
Opposed to
HBO.
what?
It's
I don't
TV.
know.
I like The Americans a lot. It's really good.
Okay,
Because that's currently running.
Yeah. I think I might go Nathan For You, Game of Thrones, Survivor. Those are my
Nathan For You
Nathan
is
For
not
You.
running right now, though.
I know.
It's
well,
not canceled,
in between
though. It
seasons.
counts.
Yeah. Dan Tack, best TV show?
right now running, man.
Mr. Robot, right? Is your favorite?
God, no, no. I would rather not watch Mr. Robot. I don't know. See, I've rarely gotten into like the Netflix and Amazon Prime like exclusive, like Man in the High Castle was one I recently watched. I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
That's
But
pretty
it's
good.
again like it's just you watch those whenever you want, right? And it's just like, so my seasons are weird. My seasons are whenever the season comes out on Netflix
course.
or Amazon.
That seems like most people. You are the majority, Dan.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Mr. Tack. Kyle.
What about him? You said Mr. Tack.
He did.
Oh, I was just
He was
correcting
just
myself.
addressing
What, you want me to
the-
pick my best TV show?
Just quickly.
I really love sitcoms. I genuinely watch a lot of sitcoms. I really like New Girl a lot right now, and
Wow.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine's really funny.
Wow.
And
All
New
right.
Girl is way funnier than I think people realize.
Probably true.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. Aloha, Ben Hansen, and everybody else. I was curious.
Aloha.
I'm excited for the
Is this
Pokemon
from
game.
Hawaii?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll never know. I was curious as to how you guys select games for replay. Some of them I understand. Some have to deal with something current, like Captain America: Civil War and stuff. But how are games non-themed chosen?
Oh wow, I don't think we can tell him this, can we?
Is it like, hey, have you
is a
played this
secret,
game?
actually.
Did you like it? Same goes for roulettes. What's going on here?
Are we allowed to tell? Like,
You out of your mind? What do you think this is? The CIA?
Like, I'm confused
No, I'm
because like
serious. We're
my
not
answer
supposed to
is
tell that kind
it
of
is
stuff.
is totally random. Like, we literally will sometimes go in the vault and just pull something off the shelf.
Dan, what would you be hesitant
are
about
we allowed
revealing?
to talk about that? Like,
Are you effing with us?
I cannot tell. I'm so confused.
I
right
think
now.
it came from a sincere place, and then he was embarrassed and course corrected.
no, it's
Is there some secret that I don't know about?
all right. Hey, cool. Let's tell him.
What are you talking about? God, Reiner replays kind of his baby, so it's a
Yeah.
lot of him wanting to do the vault, or somebody else chiming up and be like, "Hey, I want to play this. This is a good
Yeah,
time
or
for
often it's
this."
like I remember. Like it'll be some random thing will set me off and be like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that game. We should play that on replay."
Yeah.
Or like the reader said, it's like a lot to do with timeliness. Like we played Jack 2 because Uncharted came out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Or like I was really happy that last week we did Perfect Dark N64 and Perfect Dark Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Because I literally had that combo in mind years ago, and then I don't know if I mentioned it or just forgot
You
about
mentioned it.
Okay. But then like Reiner stormed out of the game
kick the
vault.
door down.
He said, "I'm ready to for a replay." No, and he just had those two, and he's like, "Here it is, this week's show." And he's like, "Awesome, let's go." That's it. So as you can see, pretty damning stuff.
Yeah, Dan does not want to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable discussing that on the air.
Dear GI Crew, this is from Alex in Houston. Do you guys have any older siblings? If so, how do they influence your gaming tastes?
No.
No.
I mean, I did.
I also don't.
I'm the oldest.
I have an older brother. I play a lot more games than he does for obvious reasons. But we both kind of like the same stuff. It was weird. We both liked single player games. Like we didn't play a lot of co-op games. We liked to pass the controller on Donkey Kong Country and Mega Man X and stuff like that. So
Beards and redhead.
that's right. That's how you describe my brother.
We love the redhead.
Beards, redhead, and camera around your neck.
I realized that was insulting because I said I didn't have any older siblings and I have two older sisters, but they didn't like games. That's why.
that's
That's why I
pretty
framed it
Boy,
that way.
I thought I was the person who couldn't count in this podcast.
They like would hand me down a bunch of old like Tiger Electronics. Like, hey, play this Little Mermaid Tiger game. It's great.
Those are pretty good stuff.
It's really good.
Yeah.
We've got to play it on a replay sometime. All right. We have a replay. Stuart Blessman writes in, and I want to bless this man for this question because it comes out of nowhere, but I love it.
All right.
In your minds, what do you think the Virtual Boy did right?
Absolutely nothing. There's my answer.
Tried something completely new.
It tried.
Tried.
It's like Louis C.K. how he says dating should just be called trying. Just the effort you got to really appreciate out there.
Yeah.
It had foregrounds and backgrounds. Wario could jump in the background and tennis. You know,
I
tried stereoscopic like way before anybody else.
Absolutely. And like you have to give them credit for being like, we want to immerse people in games in a way they've never had before. Let's set up this little tripod and shove your face in there.
The controller had like little handles on it, kind of like the N64 handles.
You know,
It wasn't a bad controller.
It had 2 D-pads, which we can kind of look at and be like, oh, what the hell? That's so stupid. But like now all controllers have 2 sticks on them.
It really makes you think.
I mean,
we weren't supposed to say that anymore.
I love the concept, and I assume this is how this meeting went down at Nintendo, where it's like, Game Boy, huge success. What is that? Green and black. Great. Can't do it again for Virtual Boy. What are we gonna do? Red. I say they have like a big, drape that they pull down, just a red wall. It's like this is the future. Let's burn some eye sockets.
Your interpretation, I think, is probably dead on.
I wish I spoke Japanese.
Let's ache some heads.
Yeah.
Reenactment.
This is like drunk history.
So, I agree. It's something new. It's something crazy. It's not like this tech was revolutionary at the time. I can't imagine.
Or now.
Also spearheaded, as Andy likes to point out, from Mr. Metroid. What is his name?
I don't know.
Does you want to help me out?
I believe
He
it was
passed
Mr.
away.
Metroid.
Gunplay.
Yes.
I can't remember.
That's
The creator of
embarrassing. I'm sorry.
Metroid created Virtual Boy.
Right. So great pedigree, thinking outside the box.
I'm going to
Noble
move my
experiment.
mouth. You can edit in that later.
That's what we're doing.
No, that's
just
right.
hit me.
Court got it.
There we go. Joseph Easterly writes in and says, "Hey, GI crew, I hope you're having a great day." No,
I love it.
No, and thank you so much for all the
Letter of the
content.
week.
The answer is no.
So
You're getting a jacket.
from time to time, I hear a reference to modern day board gaming on the podcast. I guess I'm just curious as to who in the office is a board gamer. Of those board gamers, what are some of your favorites?
Better get Miller down here.
Nah, Miller would talk for
He's
too
got a
long.
column.
He knows too much. He does have a column. Great point. Top
Futter.
of the table.
Oh, yeah. Futter.
Yeah, Futter's big on him.
Yeah, they write up a lot of stuff. So Game Informer board games, I'm sure a million things will pop up. We review, or not review, but give full impressions of like, a lot of game adaptations because we understand that's our audience. But like, I remember Miller did a big write-up like on the BioShock Infinite board game, which I forgot existed. XCOM, which was that weird mixed media one. Are there any board games that stand out for you guys?
I'm more of a card game, CCG player as far as tabletop games go, or living deck games or whatever the heck they're called now, living card games and stuff like that. And, yeah, it's not really board games.
Really? You seem like a board game kind of guy.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Yeah,
You're smart.
Yeah, that is true.
What's your IQ, Dan Tack?
I don't. It's pretty high.
What is it really? What GPA did you get in high school?
It's pretty high.
GPA. I don't remember.
You're not going to reveal this?
I don't think I am.
What about your SAT
Out of
scores?
your
I
mind?
don't think I need to reveal my ACT, SAT.
Why not?
And,
What's the harm?
GPA.
Although it's just on the tip of his tongue.
I know what it is.
Wait,
I just
check
don't
for
know
a
if I should share
tattoo
it.
on the inside of the wrist. What do we got here?
Yeah,
It'll
it's
start
not
with
there.
a 4.
It might.
Interesting.
What are you doing? Why are you so secretive about this stuff?
He's trying. He's just like
no
creating.
reason- there's no reason-
Cultivating the mystery.
There's no reason to
Exactly.
share that information.
Like, what's underneath that hot purple?
Well, you'll find out about that after the show.
No.
There's a
way.
deal. I did super shitly in school, and I'm sitting right next to this brainiac, so that really worked out for you, didn't it, buddy?
It sure did.
I had fun.
So did I.
Street Fighter 2 turns out is great. Says Clark.
Yeah.
But anyways, Avalon is the best board game in my mind, and I'm far from an expert.
You don't
I
even need a
basically
board.
played one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Avalon. I do love Avalon.
Yeah.
it's
That's
just
great.
lying to your friends. The game.
It's good.
So it's great. All right, what do you guys like? Is the best question?
I like the one that said, like, hello, I hope you guys are doing great.
Just because that was the last
Yes.
one.
good.
Yes.
I like the Virtual Boy one actually because it was so kind of left field.
Yep, I like Virtual Boy and I like Smart Developers.
Okay.
What do you guys think between
I
those
think,
two?
I think those are both good, actually. I hate the Virtual Boy, so I want to go with the developers.
All right,
Cork?
it's down to you.
I don't know, boy. I don't know how to create a tie, but I like Virtual Boy question a lot.
I like Virtual Boy too.
All right.
I love the Smart Developers because I always ask
I do
other
that.
people that, but
I was overruled, but I do think the developers one. I think it's a great question.
Oh, it's a good.
it's one of the best.
The fact that the question is read on the air, do we call it the air?
Yeah.
shows that it's gone through levels of like filtration, so they're all good questions theoretically by the time they get to us.
Absolutely.
You're doing your job, buddy.
So Stuart Blessman will ship you out something nice. Thank you for writing in about the Virtual Boy, which we should play at some point in the office. We're trying to figure out how to do a replay of it.
Well, we don't want to talk about it too much, but
Yeah, you guys are giving away everything.
we do need to figure out how to capture Virtual Boy footage. I don't even know how
It would be
begin to
like
do that.
filming through the eyepiece because I don't think there's any sort of video out. That and N-Gage or
We
Next
just shove a
Frontiers.
GoPro in there. I think would be good.
GoPros answer most questions we have on how could we possibly
we
do
shake it
that.
up and say,
Yeah, like-
what should our next cover be?
Or like, what does Dan Tack do when he goes home? It's always
I thought you guys already knew.
Yeah, we
right?
went over all that earlier.
Yeah.
in the podcast.
That's right. Watches a lot of YouTube vids. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this show. If you've played Uncharted 4 up through Chapter 10, you can keep listening. Or if you just don't give a crap about Uncharted but want to hear our opinions about what makes this game so good or maybe what we don't like about it, you can stay tuned because coming up next is a very long discussion and very detailed discussion about Uncharted 4 with no spoilers beyond Chapter 10. So stay tuned for that. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show, and welcome to a new installment of our GI Game Club. We have a full house here, everybody, because it turns out everyone's playing Uncharted 4 and everybody wants to talk about Uncharted 4.
A little more
Nobody
popular
wanted-
than Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I was going to say, what happened to Final Fantasy?
Well,
We
the
didn't
people
have this
listening to the
crowd.
audio, they just assume that it's just old standbys Joe and Reeves. But no, we have more people. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see people. It's like a clown car in this studio. We also have Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey.
We got Kyle Hilliard,
I have too many people here.
Matt Cotto,
Hello.
and Elise Favis?
God, no. Elise Favis.
Favis. All right. I don't recognize anything.
I really like Elise Favis, though. That's nice.
Elise, you'll hear, is coming through Skype, and she's living inside of a laptop currently. She is an official Game Informer hire, but she's living in Montreal. So we had to Skype her in because
For now.
For another month or so.
Yeah, but we'll be sure to get you on the podcast when you're actually here in town. But for now, we get a distorted taste of what it's like to have Elise in the room, everybody.
And proof that I exist.
That's true.
There you have it.
All right.
You have to hold up a newspaper to actually prove it.
I don't know.
This could be an elaborate,
video.
pre-recorded prank.
So this is Uncharted 4, everybody. We're talking about the first 10 chapters, like all the way through Chapter 10. And I think we're all on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Once,
No one pretending that they haven't beaten the game or anything like that. We're all basically there.
And we're not going to have the Joe situation where you played through 7 and just rushed through it and then tried to vaguely remember, what was that stuff
Yeah,
again?
I did do that.
Should we just say where that is, just to bookmark it or in cap it? Like,
Sure. So
Yeah,
we're-
for the people who don't know the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah,
on the
it's-
yeah,
chapters,
for somebody who played all the way through already or something.
Totally. It's Madagascar right when they split up. So chapter, I don't know, we all loaded chapter 11, right? Well, I won't
Yeah.
even get into that, I guess. But it's when they split ways. So Sully and Drake go one way, Sam goes another way, and they're going to find this gosh darn treasure that we've been hearing so much about. Finally.
Surprise, surprise, they get to the end of 10 and the treasure's actually not there and you just got another adventure. I mean, I really thought this was just going to be a 10 chapter game.
I thought that was the
I'm
end of the
so
game.
surprised.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
hoping
that
that
was
it was
quite a twist.
I was hoping it was like a 20 chapter game, but the second half is just like you spending your treasure, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to pay off my mortgage.
management.
We have a bunch of emails from people that wrote into Podcasting Game Informer about stuff, but just as a broad topic going off that, maybe to kick things off, what were you guys expecting from the first 10 chapters story-wise? Is it delivering? I think with how much people were talking with this, I was expecting more of a twist or some more revelations in the first 10 chapters, but it's relatively straightforward. We want this treasure. Let's keep plowing ahead. Oh, it's one step away. Oh, it's one step away, which I understand is going to be the overall structure for any of these adventure games.
Yeah.
But I guess I was expecting a little bit more.
So I think the reason why a lot of people sort of treat the story of this game like it's a little more sensitive than maybe it ultimately is when you play through it is because, like, for me anyway, that is what this game is just like the narrative and how it unfolds, you know? So it's like the reason I'm playing it is for those small moments, is for that little like section when like Drake and Elena are just like playing a video game together or something like that, you know? Like, so even though that's not a big twist, that's a story moment that like I'm glad I didn't know about when I went in there beforehand, you know? Because
Yeah.
like for me, And you can go and get like decent third-person shooting and stuff in all kinds of different games. But like I think the narrative is what Uncharted does really well, which is why I anyway hold those spoilers that maybe a little more sacred than some others.
So the crash Easter egg you would put over whatever happens at the end of this game. It's those little things.
No, I mean I think
I did love that a lot.
It's all story stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, it's interesting just to kind of go back to your question is like overall this game feels a little more slower paced than I feel like the previous Uncharted's have because
Interesting.
of scenes like that at the house where you're just kind of like shooting Nerf darts or the underwater sequence where you're loading boxes onto a thing. You know, like there's a lot of scenes with Drake and other people kind of chatting. And I like it actually. It's good drama, but it's just a bit of a change up from the previous Uncharted's.
Well, Nikki Draycott writes in and says, I felt it was a brave move for the first few hours of an action-adventure game to make it a walking simulator. I hate that phrase, but no one has come up with a good alternative.
I don't think it counts
I think
as
that's
a walking
stretch because while there are there's the underwater sequence, but I mean there's points like with Sam escaping from the Panama jail, and there's action sequences still in the first 10 chapters.
Yeah,
I
mean, the
and
opening
there's
of
enough interactivity there between these kind of long cutscenes that it feels memorable, like it feels worth playing. I don't think I would go as far as saying not there's anything wrong with walking simulators either, but I think that's definitely a stretch.
Yeah.
And I think too that after going through the beginning when they're in the prison and you lose Sam and then they catch up, even though there's certainly a lot of chapters, a lot of firefights and running around platforming and stuff, the other chapters after that, I think it is cool to have them sort of reestablish their relationship in some ways in front of the players. And so even though it might be just some quips between them or whatever, it's in a small kind of way, it's actually kind of cool just to be around him again and sort of again kind of get reacquainted with him, so to speak, as a character.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call it a walking simulator, but I mean, Chapter 4 is probably my favorite chapter out of the first 10 so far. That's one with the house and the one with Crash Bandicoot, which is a weird thing to say in 2016. But I love that, and I wonder how much of like the relatively slower pacing in the beginning of this game is a response to that constant criticism, which I guess we can't avoid here, talking about, oh, Nathan Drake, the serial killer. Because it's I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's till Chapter 8 until you really are forced to kill people. As Drake.
As Nathan?
As Nathan, yeah. As Sam, you start unloading in the prison and stuff like that. But I think they really bury the lead as far as Nathan Drake having to murder people.
Well, there's the flashback with Nate in the prison. Isn't he killing people there? He's just punching people?
I mean, it opens on the boat, and you're sort of hitting boats and shooting from the back of the boat.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess I did forget about the boat. Which, by the way, somebody wrote in about. Andy from Anchorage says, so far I think Uncharted 4 is an amazing, amazing game, but the part I liked the least was literally the first thing I did in the game. That cold open on the boat did absolutely nothing for me. It controlled like the jet ski bits from Crash 3. Read, not a compliment. And the part where you had to evade mines fired at you from an enemy boat was visually striking, but the kind of goofy video game design I thought we left behind in the 90s. By the time I got to Chapter 10, I sort of stopped caring why Sam and Nate were on that boat to begin with. I was also struck by that. And I think it was also a factor of people on Twitter haven't been spoiling things. I don't know what happens in this game at all. But the photo mode, people have been taking so many beautiful photos. And so I was expecting every moment of this game just to look like drop dead gorgeous. And it is an amazing, amazing looking game. But I think especially with the boat in the open, I was like, no, it doesn't look quite as good as I expected.
Yeah, my boat was kind of bouncing in a weird way.
I don't know if the boat sequence really worked for me as an opening, Like, I think of Uncharted 2 with, like, the derailed train and stuff, and then those kind of awesome big openers, and the boat sequence just didn't do a whole lot for me. Not that it was bad or anything, it's just, it didn't really strike me.
I think it's probably more impressive on a, like, technical, to just be like, look at these cool like rain effects and look at all these great water effects and stuff. And I think when you look at it from that, it's sort of like probably technically very impressive. But yeah, I mean, from just a way to like get you invested in the story and the gameplay right off the bat, I also agree.
I guess I don't understand why everybody had a problem with it.
It wasn't a problem. It just, I expected it to get out of the gate a little bit stronger than like, okay, controlling a boat. And like this person says, it just felt a little bit retro. Didn't feel that fantastic.
It feels totally separate from the rest of the game when it's like your first introduction to this other character and then you're going to jump back. But they obviously must have felt that they needed some kind of action opening. You can't just go straight into, Nathan in the dormitory with, like
in
sneaking
terms
around.
of gameplay too, I mean, putting you on a vehicle when most of the game you're going to be on foot is just always going to feel different.
Yeah, especially, I mean, not to jump ahead too much, but I mean, driving the car in Chapter 10 was another moment where it's like, man, this game is pushing so hard to be grounded, and then you get in that car and it's just slightly wonky car physics, or it's like you accidentally take it off a rock mid-conversation and they don't comment on the fact that you're flailing this dumb car halfway around a mountain.
His visions he had flashbacks to the Mako and Mass Effect.
Yeah, right?
Shuddered.
We can get back to that later because I really like that.
I actually like that too.
Oh, you like the car section?
I had the car stuff, yeah.
I had scenes where they jumped in my throat and made it hard to talk, where they were hitting rocks and were commenting on it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe I just had a different experience than you did.
Yeah.
I think you played it wrong, Hanson.
Is that what I
played
did?
it wrong,
Actually, some people talked about that. So here we go. Ian Levisk wrote in and says the chapter where you're in the car did a good job, where you'd get out and they'd acknowledge that you were leaving and pick up the story when you get back. But for the other chapters, you kind of feel bad when Sully's waiting on you and you spend hours exploring useless stuff. I end up ruining my immersion, so I try and roleplay as Nate. Would Nate really leave Sam and Sully to go over a cliff and admire the art assets made for this game? Nah, I guess I'll keep moving. So I keep making this decision. Do I appreciate the story, role-playing, and go where the game wants me to go to get the perfect pacing that the director had in mind? What do you guys think of that? Do you feel when you're playing Uncharted games like there's a tension between this is what Naughty Dog wants me to be doing, but I'm just going to dick around?
No, I mean, it's a video game. I think, as good as it looks and as many little touches there are to try to make it, sort of roll or sound or, strike you as somewhat real. I mean, it's a video game. It's the same we've always talked about, when there's false urgency in a game and you got to save the universe. But by the way, if you have to do anything else and do other missions, go do them now, on Mass Effect. Personally, to me, it didn't strike me like that. If I was him, I would just go enjoy the game. You want to.
Yeah, you don't have to role play it.
And the rest of that stuff is you can take that up with his analyst or something.
Yeah, I don't do it from like a role playing perspective, but like I just for me, what I love about Uncharted is the way it sort of replicates that like Indiana Jones movie sort of feel, right? Mm-hmm. So like unlike a lot of RPGs and stuff that I play, like I am just not compelled to do any of the side content in Uncharted.
If you see like a little cave, you won't run up there and go explore it?
Usually not. If I do, it's often like accidental. Like I think that's where I'm supposed to go, and it's like, oh no, it's someplace. I swear I have I'm on finished chapter 10, and I probably have 4 or 5 of those like little optional treasures that you find lying around.
Do you think some of that has to do with the rewards you get from those? Like if you got a better upgrade to a weapon or something, do you think you'd be more
absolutely
inclined to do that? Because not to compare it too much to Tomb Raider, but Tomb Raider has those optional side quests, and those I always did because the rewards in that were really good.
You can learn Greek.
That's right. I wanted to learn Greek.
If there's like a tangible, if there's like an in-game reward for that kind of exploration, then I'll absolutely do it. But there's not in Uncharted, so then it's just like, like to me, seeing the inside of another like tower or cave or something is like that's not a reward. I'm just gonna go and get to the next story part, which is the actual reward.
Just because you find that stuff boring, it's not a matter of ruining the immersion so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It does feel like a dated holdover to just have like these little collectibles that you're going to pick up and kind of spin around.
Yeah,
they don't have much of a purpose.
He doesn't even comment on them, does he? Or
no.
Then there's no like text or like something when he's rotating around, just some acknowledgement instead of like, hey, look at this little figure. Call it a day.
Yeah, the most I've ever gotten out of it is like, when he like I went down a well at some point because I thought that there was going to be something I needed to do down there, and instead there's just one of these dumb treasures, and like when you come back, like your reward for it, you just get in there and Sully's like, did you find anything cool? And Nate's like,
I don't necessarily go out of my way so much to find all the extra treasures, but I do enjoy it when I do find them. Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that in Madagascar, like it seems such more expansive, like in terms of level design than we've seen in some other Uncharted's, like there's so much more exploration, like going behind a waterfall or going under, inside those wells and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Oh, I missed the waterfall part.
Can you go behind a waterfall?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if you're real good or a jerk, you drive your Jeep and like sit right under the waterfall and it just dumps on everyone.
Do they comment on it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, they make fun of Sam for not taking a shower off.
Oh, that's good. That sounds great. I also love, you say there's not really a payoff for going in the well. I did like going in the well, first of all, because you got to do kind of an Arkham Knight Batman puzzle where you have to bring the winch down there and then floor and reverse it to collapse something, which I thought was a cool little puzzle.
Clever.
But then also you get to go in there and then Sam goes like well. And it's like, hey, that's Sully's joke. You completely stole it. It's worth that's more of a payoff for me than any sort of trinket down there,
Because, it also like cues those kind of callbacks, right? And then there's also this like kind of more dialogue, like you know, in The Last of Us, when you'd press like triangle with the ellipses, you know, and on top like the bubble on top of the character, like you see that happen every once in a while too.
Yeah,
which I think is a great addition.
For sure. Something I want to get out of the way early in this game club too, and see where we land on this, is I think we're going to be bringing up Last of Us every once in a while. I got an angry email this week because during the Final Fantasy VII game club, apparently we spoiled Final Fantasy VI's ending. And so I'd like to get your guys' read. Are we going to spoil Last of Us, or can we dance around Last of Us spoilers?
I think we can dance.
Yeah.
I think we have to.
I think we have to spoil the Last.
Yeah, maybe some moments and analogs we'll bring up, but we're not going to say, this is how Last of Us ends.
Yeah. And also, just from a personal standpoint, I think that, because I'm probably the one who spoiled the FF6 ending, but like...
Actually, they said it was Mr. Host Guy, so I think that's me.
Oh, that must be you.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I think there's a difference between like The Last of Us, which is still a relatively current game, versus like a game that came out in 1995.
Yes, absolutely. So just to go off that Madagascar stuff, Jeff from Massachusetts writes in and says, Madagascar is the coolest environment yet. The views of the volcano are breathtaking. I like how the vehicle handles. The mud effects and how it makes your car dirty are amazing. The banter during the ride and how they'll stop if you get out works really well.
Yeah.
And that was striking because like I was coming up on Shoreline, is that the organization? I was coming up on like one of their encampments or something like that. And so the conversation cut off. And I was like, oh my God, it was Sam talking about being in prison.
Right.
And I really wanted to hear this. And I was so bummed out. I was like, God, do I reload an old checkpoint so I can hear that and just park the car?
Yeah.
And then when I got back in, they picked it up right where they left off. I was like, yes, finally.
Yeah, Sully says like, what were you talking about, Sam?
Right,
And then
right.
yeah.
Even if they've been sitting in the car with each other for like 6 minutes while you're running around in circles off by a tree, right when you get back in, it's like, oh, here's a thing.
Yeah, interviewing Bruce and Neil for a preview that we did earlier, like they spent a lot of time talking about that. Like that was important to them to make sure that it doesn't sound like the audio recording just stops and then it like will pick back up later. Like that's like a new sort of complicated system that got injected into the game where it can pick up audio cues and insert like transitions and stuff like that. And it works well. Like it
really
feels
well.
smooth.
Yeah, I noticed too. I don't know if this is similar or not, but like the camera work too is also really impressive. Which Uncharted has always had really good camera work. But this one in particular, something about the way it just like cuts mid cutscene and does like wipes and you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
Without any loading. Like it just feels very movie-esque.
For sure. There's a couple things that absolutely blow me away about the camera. First of all, I recommend people check out, there is an old GDC talk that just got put up publicly on YouTube, and it's with Bruce and Neil, the co-directors of this game. And it's right after they finished Uncharted 2, and it's them talking about like creating the cinematic action game experience. And they lay out a lot of the tentpoles, which still very much hold true for Uncharted 4, because obviously they're in the lead of this thing. And in that, they talked about how they're always driven insane when like cutscenes don't match the gameplay, where like, you have the trigger box in most games where you walk up to this area or run or fall, and then it triggers the cutscene of like the character slowly strolling in, completely
holding a
disconnected.
different gun or
that
whatever.
kind of stuff. And they talked about how they always, I mean, it might be obvious, but they have like, a larger play space, and then they funnel down to this one specific point just to make sure that it'll never be jarring. And a big thing they notice is they always cut on action. And so like it'll be like, oh, you have to jump down this specific area, and right when you're jumping down, that's when it'll cut to a cutscene. So if you just notice that the transitions between gameplay and cutscenes, it's all cuts on action, which is so brilliant and subtle.
Uncharted 4 is also the first Uncharted that all the cutscenes are like rendered in game.
Right.
Like for the first three, they were still rendered in game, but they were video files that would play at certain points. But here, like it's actually just filming what's happening in game.
Oh, really?
Which is why I think that helps. You never get that black screen to cut to like a cutscene.
Yeah, and there's some amazing transitions, like when you're in Scotland. And you're wandering around trying to find all that stuff underneath, like you're in the catacombs, and you're climbing up on the wall, and Sam's next to you, and you're shimming along, and then there's the crack, and literally the camera just zooms in, and that transitions to that scene where it's Nadine and Rafe talking up there in the other room. But just a small detail talking about the camera and car animations. John Aldridge says, one of the things that amazed me about the game is such a little touch, but it was a big thing for me. When Nate gets in the car, if he has a rifle or anything of the sort, he'll remove it from his back and put it in between the front seats.
Huh.
Just crazy little details.
Tiny
like
little
that
animation
everywhere.
stuff that just like, I know Miller constantly went on about like getting in that Jeep, and then like Sully or somebody like kind of leaned back a little bit while he was getting in.
I think it was just a brief comment from Miller. I don't think he went on.
Oh my gosh, for 2 hours.
It was a 4-second
Not
comment. I'm
He
sure.
wanted to take me out to dinner just to talk about that animation work.
But real quick on the camera front, I think the first time the game completely blew me away. I guess we haven't talked about our overall impressions of this thing so far. But
Sucks.
There's a couple moments, and it's when Nate is swinging. The camera work is so brilliant. Like the first is after he thinks that Sam dies, and he's running and then jumps into the ocean. It's something I've never seen done in animated anything, but it's so effective. So he jumps into the ocean off this cliff, and the camera starts back, obviously like gameplay style, and then it just pulls in. So by the time he hits the water, the camera's right next to his head, and having that like forward velocity coinciding with his fall down, it works so well for me. I don't know if anybody else noticed that.
I also, for that scene in particular, like, right before that exact part you're talking about, where the camera's moving and like leaves are just overtaking you.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
And
like,
the sound design gets all muted during that after he thinks that
like
Sam's
your brother
down.
just died. Things are going insane. You can't see where you're going.
Yes.
Like leaves are just like everywhere. Like I thought that was really effective. And I really liked that sequence a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And then also when you're trying to break back into the ballroom, I believe it is, and going along the rooftops, and you end up swinging and crashing through the window into that gunfight that Sam's in the middle of. Then that's another instance where the camera like gets right up in his face right as he's crashing through that window. And it's so good.
That was a really cool like swing moment, and weird coincidence that you just end up crashing into the same ballroom that your brother's in.
Well, it
Coincidence
works out.
in that game.
What do you guys think about the swing mechanics? And just to kick it off, we have John Z Tribal writing in saying, one thing I have very mixed feelings about is the new rope gimmick. I call it a gimmick because I don't think it feels very natural. There just happens to be rope posts available whenever you run out of things to climb on, and I know it's nitpicking, but the retractable rope animation just looks silly. And maybe connected to this, Nathan Jones writes in and asks how we compare the platforming to Rise of the Tomb Raiders, which also had a lot of swinging and stuff. So
It's the thing that sort of takes me out is when they're like, oh, we gotta push a box down here so we can climb up here. It's like you literally have a rope on your hip.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get that either, but I have nothing wrong with the rope swings. I think
fun.
that it like controls really well, and it's fun.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I
you're
don't
also,
have any issues with it.
you're also talking about a game that has like okay, so you run out of places to climb and there's a rope post, but like there's also conveniently one path up a building with conspicuously like painted boards that you can,
I like the rope when it reminds me of like using the rope in Worms, where like you swing it and then you have to like pull up or pull down to like swing over to some secret areas. That's where I really get a kick out of the thing.
I have had. Go ahead, Kano.
And you get some different highlighted camera pans as it's accommodating, which angle you're coming from. I would say that I do like the rope, but I think it does produce some of the more jarring moments in terms of animation. I mean, you see a lot of subtle, well-done animations in this game for a lot of things, but, and it's a hard thing to do, but when you can call and you can use and you can jump and swing with a rope almost at any time, that's when I think you see the animations kind of break down and see flailing and just a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah,
So-
especially as the retractable rope too.
And the winch, I think, is in that ballpark as well.
I would actually say though that I was more impressed by the winch, and it was earlier too during the diving scene where like you're actually pulling it out and you're going around something.
That's it. Instead of just having the one button where he'll just connect it, the fact that you have to wrap around with the trees and the winch.
And
also
actually,
the
I
scuba.
continued. For some reason, I would see like how many times I could get around, and you can actually go around it, more than once, and then still pick it up. And
That's cool.
Well, he also does that thing where he passes the winch like behind his back. That's another one of those like really
that's
small
cool.
animations.
So we asked about like favorite moments, and Brad Dame writes in, and this is up there for me as well. It's connected to the winch. He says, my personal favorite moment thus far was the moment when you're in the Jeep and use the winch to get up the muddy hill, and you're caught on a boulder. As you drive up and the boulder loosens and falls, a set piece of the Jeep falling off the cliff, and you have to climb back to the driver's seat and pull yourself up with the winch was really, really cool. I'm glad they're doing set pieces that aren't just floor crumbling beneath you.
Yeah.
I'm with you, because I think everybody was suddenly like frustrated by that boulder. Like, God, this thing's kind of in the way. What the hell is that doing? I didn't see it coming.
Oh, I totally saw it coming.
Did you really?
Yeah, as soon as I fastened it up there, I was like, this is going to knock this boulder over.
Oh, no. And then it's like,
To the point that, like, as I was going up the hill, I was doing everything I could to be like, can I make this not happen?
but I liked it. It's also a
wanted it
nice
to happen.
callback, I guess, to the opening of Uncharted 2 of like dangling from the train cars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Sam has
for
the nice
sure.
moment where he like recites the prayer. It's like, oh, the Catholic upbringing is really coming through.
Cool. Yeah, I like that scene a lot too, actually, and it's surprised me too, which I don't know why, because now that I think back on it, I'm like, well, it's obvious that thing was going to come and smash into you.
Right. There's a lot of that. I actually tried keeping a tally of all the things that would like crumble underneath you, because I thought it'd be funny to have a tally at the end of this game. But there's so many times where a handhold will kind of do it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to have a bunch of 0.5, so I scrapped that whole idea.
Are you keeping track of how many times someone grabs you and you're like hanging over a cliff? Like how many
That is a
handholds?
lot. I've also counted every no, which was like a parody before Uncharted 4 came out of Nathan Drake going, no.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
constant in this game.
It is.
Did you not notice that, Joe? It's like
I guess I haven't noticed it either.
every grenade or a lot when you're swinging, he'll just go, no, which is always fun.
Huh.
But
It feels natural in the context of the game.
I've only noticed it once when like some door was closing behind them. And,
Okay.
And I think it was even Sam that did it at that point. Maybe not even Nathan.
Well, it runs in the family.
Yeah.
But to get back to what you're talking about a little bit earlier, Jeff from Massachusetts writes in and says, I was totally fooled by that underwater sequence early on. I thought it was somehow related to Uncharted 2's train. I was totally surprised when it was just the bottom of a river. They got me, quote, hook, line, and sinker.
Ooh.
And that is one of my favorite moments as well.
Really?
I loved it. Yeah, because you just don't know where it is. And it's so smart to me because they make so many subtle references like, hey, Nate, you should come back up. You're running out of O2. And he's like, I'll be fine. And so that entire time, it was really tense for me because I was waiting for something to go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And then to get up and realize, oh, this is the most mundane thing possible. And it's just trying to drive home that nothing's going to go wrong. This ain't no adventure, Nate. You're digging up copper. Then he has that great moment at the end of the cutscene where he's like, copper.
Yeah, and another one of these, tiny touches that kind of builds out the immersion was when you get back onto the boat and like the other like Coast Guard or tugboat or something comes up and has a conversation with another person on the deck of just like, all right, you gotta get your boat out of here sometime. It's like those little touches that, there are dozens of them, and it just kind of helps build out this world in a way that most games, never even bother to do. Or they don't have, the money to do it.
I think that is the huge thing, is how great. I want to know the budget on this game. It's got to be astronomical. All right. Andy from Anchorage writes in and says, seriously, the writing is not just, quote, good for games. The way it camouflages exposition with character development is masterful in a way even a lot of movies routinely botch. That exchange with Vargas in the beginning that explains the treasure they're going after simultaneously builds up drama between him and Drake, while also telling us what pot of gold lies at the end of this rainbow without it seeming like a boring monologue. And I think that's a good example, even though Vargas is out of the picture relatively early. At least
that security guard?
Yeah, is the Panamanian guy that Sam ends up killing quickly. Is it Sam or Rafe?
Rafe.
It's Rafe. Sorry.
Right.
Drake's not a murderer, Hanson.
Yeah, but it does do a good job of setting up this whole concept. There's always a little bit of kind of patchy exposition work. I think later on when Nathan's just like, oh, what if clearly all these pirates pooled their money together? It's like, I don't know where that's coming from and why this is such a good guess. Elise, did you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't particularly like when there's exposition like that, but I mean, it's done pretty sparingly, I would say. Like thinking back to other Uncharted games, there was more exposition, where here you definitely see smarter storytelling techniques, like that we've already pointed out. So,
Yeah.
There was,
and I think it's actually like one thing that I like in terms of storytelling is like the multiple dialogue options that they're kind of used sparingly, but when they are used, it's really fun because like I'm thinking of like Nate and Nadine, like the fight scene after the auction, and being able to choose those one-liners yourself was very fun.
Yeah. Brad disagrees with you.
I'm actually not a fan of those at all.
Let's get Brad's thoughts. And he says,
really liked it.
I think the dialogue decisions are absolutely pointless. It's literally just choosing what quip Nathan will use in a cutscene. The game already has a lot of replay value. This game didn't need this.
I don't think they add anything. Like I like Uncharted because I want to hear that humor and I want to hear like Nathan Drake's quips and stuff like that. And I want Naughty Dog to pick the best quip. I don't want to be in charge of that. Like,
That's just because you're not funny,
I like
Kyle.
being in charge of it. I think it's cool. I think
it's the adventure game fan in you, Elise. It's coming through.
Yeah, because like for me, when it's useful to choose dialogue when like you have agency over like who your character is, where it's like you have. It's a little more of a role-playing element, right? Where it's like, this is what I think my character would say in this situation or whatever. But like Nathan Drake is so set already in like who he is. I agree with Kyle. Like I would rather just have there be a set quip and have it be a scene I watch rather than just like have this sort of like false sense of control over it.
I think the first time they use it might be the most effective instance that I've seen so far is with Elena.
With Elena, that worked well.
Right, when you tune out and then it's like, oh man, I actually have to try and guess what she was talking about.
It brings you back to, because it was a very smart storytelling technique because like he's kind of being pulled away by his imagination of that treasure hunting, but then like it kind of pulls you back into the scene and it's like Elena's like, hey, like what actually is my article about?
And, where are you at? Speaking of the writing, like that scene in particular really did it for me and made me just like fall in love with these characters again. And it's so rare that you like see married couples in video games or even like movies, to be honest. So it's like cool to see them like go for it and be like, you know what, you're gonna still like these characters even though they're not like young and single.
Okay, this brings up a question that I have though.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a topic, but like, why did Nate lie to Elena about this whole thing?
Well, I like that even Sully has the smart where he's like, you're underestimating her. Like, she can handle this. Like, she's been on 1,000 adventures with you already.
Well, one of the things that, speaking of that scene, and, we're on chapter 10, we don't obviously know where things are going to go, but I would assume that it was intentional where they wanted to kind of create, and you're right, Joe, what's the word? Of a kind of false tension of like, is it going to be the stereotypical setup where one spouse is going to do something and then, stereotypically the woman's going to like have to pull him back from some foolish choice and, the tension being like, well, I'm just, Mr. Joe Average and I have this boring life. But they did that where they sort of pulled it back where she tells him like, well, you should just do it.
Yeah.
And so it was good. It's like, okay, great. They're not going to go into some stereotypical sitcom situation where he's just the guy who doesn't listen and she's the stern woman. And then the Sully comment also pulled that back where it was specifically there to reinforce that like she's smart, and she can handle it or whatever. So where this is going, I think is going to pay off even more kind of against type in a way.
Yeah. The easy answer is creates easy conflict.
Right. Well, okay. So but that's like the writer's reason for doing it.
Right.
But like to me, it's very confusing. Like everything that I think I know about Nathan Drake at this point in his life, with what you've seen with his like relationship with his wife, the fact that she encourages him to go do this Malaysian job or whatever, everything points to the fact that he would just be like, he would tell her what he's doing.
And still hasn't even told her he has a brother.
Yeah, that's the other part that like
It's true.
He has such a good justification that you would never have otherwise. That like, yeah, just tell her your brother's back from the dead and he's going to be killed, by this terrible drug czar.
Maybe I'm projecting.
He's just making way more trouble for himself, and that is unnecessary.
Sitcom-esque trouble.
I think that's part of like the character moment. Like I like it. I think Drake comes off as a bit of an asshole because of it, and I appreciate
he does,
that.
Definitely.
And like I think it's
But I think it does kind of fit his personality though, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean I think he's lied to Elena in the past, and I'm thinking like even Uncharted 1, Sully and Nate just kind of ditch her at the dock, So
that was that.
He can be kind of a jerk sometimes, like he's funny and he's witty, but I don't know.
And I think like Kato said, I think it does. I think part of it is we have to see where it's going because it's never explicitly stated, what is going on there. You get the sense that there has been some kind of promise that has been made between the two of them, but you can't really tell, who it's more important to.
Right. And like, again, maybe it's just me projecting or something, but like, I wonder how much of it is clearly Drake misses excitement, misses adventure, and how much of him kind of keeping this information from his wife is a little bit of a thrill. Like, I'm going to have some
It's
secrets
a mix,
again.
definitely.
I do like the way it's building because, like, just when he first gets to Malaysia and he has that call with his wife, and you're like,
She knows.
I'll come out. And then he's like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, and like,
Drake.
you shouldn't have.
I think also if he told her, he would probably not do it. Like he would know that he needs to keep himself safe for the sake of his wife, and by lying to her, that's another way for him to go on this crazy adventure where people are shooting at him a lot.
I'm sorry, Elise, you're cutting out. What'd you say?
Sorry about that. I just mean I think he's in over his head, and he doesn't know how to deal with the situation now. It's like one lie is piling over the other, and he wants to help his brother, and part of him misses that treasure hunting, and he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't want to face that. He doesn't want to. And if he tells Elena, everything, then he does kind of have to face
something
the fact that he misses it too.
Yeah, something that former intern Harry Mackin said on Twitter. It was before I started Uncharted 4, and it was just like, that's a weird thought, whatever. And then I remembered it about halfway through the play session, maybe around chapter 5 or so, and I was like, oh no, now I can't get this framework out of my head. That Uncharted 4 is just The Incredibles. It is just Mr. Incredible wanting to go on the adventure and trying to keep the secret from Elastigirl. It's the exact same structure, and it's one of my favorite movies, so I got no complaints about it.
The other thing is, maybe Sam knows some like embarrassing stuff about Drake that he doesn't want Elena to know about.
Like he wet his bed back at the orphanage and whatnot.
Yeah.
So Sophie writes in on Nathan Drake's character and says, I think up until this installment, Nathan hasn't really been that likable of a character for me. From the get-go, he was breaking rules left and right, and I really didn't relate to him much. He was just a cool bro. But I really like how his life has settled down. I think most everyone can relate to how he's bored of his mundane, normal job. There's been a lot of cool moments so far, and one of them is simply their house. A little tangent at the end there.
Their house is cool.
Their house is,
Yeah.
I like the design.
Like, it's messy.
Good
I
interior
really
design.
loved how messy the house was. Like, it's a small touch.
It's weird to me. People, obviously, with the first Uncharted, it's like, oh, it's Guy Tomb Raider. But this, and I think the opening of The Last of Us as well, it is a weird callback to what I loved about Tomb Raider 2, where you get to explore Lara's mansion for the first time. And that really does it for me. Like, getting to explore somebody's house will make me connect to that personality so much more. And the fact that Last of Us opens that way, and now Uncharted 4, it's like, hey, take your time, wander around this house. And I love that crap. I know it's basically
too.
Uncharted Gone Home, but
you'd think it's so mundane, but it's so true. Like, that always works for me too. Like, even just thinking back to something like Gone Home, you know, and just looking through the stuff and with Nate and what was it, the attic, you know, and looking at all his little artifacts and treasures from past adventures. I thought that was really fun.
yeah.
Okay. Speaking of that, I had a question. I heard that there was a dig at the Vita game somewhere in that
Oh, is that
section.
what that is? Okay.
I don't know what that. Do any of you guys know what that was?
I think I vaguely remember a quip.
Like in the
that
attic?
Sully said or something, or is it up in the attic?
I thought because he picked up a bunch of things and looked at them, and one of them where he picked up and said like, "Oh, this really isn't my style anymore." And I wondered if maybe that was.
Well, I remember
Directed
he
at the
picks up
Vita
a
game,
Vita and then he puts it on the ground, then he pisses all over it. If that's what you're thinking of.
Hilarious, yeah.
That was a weird out of character moment.
Yeah, but he's likable this time around. I agree. No, but yeah, I enjoyed that attic part. How long did you guys shoot the little Nerf gun around?
I did for quite a bit, and I also like that there was absolutely no like gameplay or mechanics tied to it. Like, it's just his imagination.
Just there.
You're not
You know,
trying to get
reliving like
scored
his
or anything.
past fantasies, and it's over when you decide it's over.
It turns out games should be fun. Go have fun in an attic. I wonder if I'm sure they thought of this analogy, but this isn't a spoiler, but to Last of Us's Left Behind DLC, because in that you use like a squirt gun.
Oh yeah.
And it's
I
just-
thought of that too. Like right away I made that connection. I was like, oh man, this is totally like Left Behind, and it's great, but it's not. It doesn't have those same mechanics, right? Because the water gun fight in Left Behind was actually like, it was a game that you could win
Right.
or lose.
Yeah, you had to learn stealth and whatnot through that whole section.
Huh. Well, while we're speaking about the house, did anybody's Crash Bandicoot skills come back to them? I feel like I was
they went
terrible
away.
at that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just talk about this Easter egg. I saw that on NeoGAF a
Did
couple
you?
weeks ago, and I got so excited because Crash Bandicoot 1 is one of my favorite games ever, and it's like, that is such a bizarre Easter egg to shoehorn into this game.
So it was spoiled for you, kind of.
It was, yeah, because
That sucks.
I just saw the box art, and then I sent it over to Reiner, and I'm like, is this true? Is Crash in the game? And he's like, oh, it's not just box art. And so my mind was just lit on fire, like, what? What are they going to do? But I think it's so smart, first of all, to connect people playing the game a little bit more, possibly to Elena, the fact that, like, hey, it's cool lady, she's hot, she's into games, she knows Crash. And I also love that Drake gets to have that line too, where he's like, how hard can it be? It's just running and jumping. I'm really good at that. Like,
You should
I love
climb.
that kind of,
You should learn to climb.
yeah, exactly. Those little quips really do it for me.
I really adored that. Just like the idea of like looking at their past and like comparing it to their present, and like having their current character, like the modern character, comment on their original character. It was
So
great. I
much
loved it
fun.
so much.
But as far as the skills, it's strange, but I'm currently playing through Crash 2.
Really?
And so it's weird to boot this up. And unless the physics changed between Crash 1 and 2 more than I realized, it's not spot on. It feels a little bit different. There's new animations
That was
in
a little
this.
off too. I wasn't sure if it
Also,
was me.
it starts on level 4 instead of level 1, even though they go to start from the main menu. It's completely inaccurate.
Yeah, it's
There's no
terrible.
high score with the one.
Can you beat her high score?
Yeah, you can.
And then she does the dishes?
Then she goes on the adventure with Drake the entire time. No, I
Just play as Elena for
No, I didn't end up beating that.
But you can. Do we
I guess
know?
so.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a bold move. It's not just like a little fun thing you can do on your side, but to like force you to go out of your way to play this game from 1996 for, I don't know, 3 minutes or so. Like, if you have no familiar with that game, you're just going for like the storytelling experience. I bet there's some people that are just like, what is this?
Well, then you get to
But
beat,
that
then
is
you
a
get
storytelling
But it's
experience.
so short
Like-
that even if you're not familiar with Crash Bandicoot or you don't care for that certain part, it's so short that
Yeah, bold is a weird move. I don't see it as bold. I see
You don't
it
think
as
it's bold to emulate Crash 1 instead of Uncharted 4?
I think it's just this cool thing that they did to call back to their old game.
You don't think it's crazy?
Bold would be like killing Drake in the first 5 minutes. And he plays as
bold is
kid or
really
something.
overstating it. It's a cool little treasure in there.
I agree, Hanson. It was terrible. It was a terrible idea. They shouldn't have done it.
Okada says, read the next one, everybody. So let's see. So Brad writes in and says, I wasn't sold on Sam Drake as a character prior to going into the game. I was worried about trying to introduce a new character in a game with a very solid set of returning heroes. However, I quickly grew to enjoy the character just as much as the others. Did any of you have similar thoughts on Sam? What are your thoughts on Sam as a character so far?
I absolutely had that as well. Yeah, I mean, kind of like the reader, I think I was more just like, oh, great, they're going to try to, in some ways sort of offshoot the Nathan Drake character by, is he just going to try to be like a duplicate with a different, look or whatever, and how's that dynamic going to work? But I was really sold actually on, in the beginning, not when he died, but actually when they had the bike scene, and he's got the bike and Nathan's like, oh, okay, I know what this is about. I know what you're trying to do. And they have that kind of moment that also calls back to their parents or whatever or whatnot. I thought that was really good, but I'm really enjoying Sam way more than I thought it would.
Yeah. I had a similar level of apprehension because like of how good the rest of the cast is, and also the fact that like you're always left with that, oh, so you suddenly have a brother now, despite the fact that I've played 3 of your games with nary a mention of any family.
It's the Poochie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But then of course it makes sense if you're like, yeah, he thought his brother was dead.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, I guess if he thought he was dead, but it's always like, so Sully knew about the brother the whole time, I guess.
Well, yeah, if everyone did, but if
it
this
is weird that it never came up at all,
Is
like
it that
even
weird,
in
though?
banter or something like that.
I really don't think it is, because like just because like this is clearly a traumatic and like hard thing in their life. Like, I don't know, you'd want to keep dredging. Hey, Nate, remember your dead brother? He used to love this.
Boy, right through the belly, that guy.
You sure didn't save him, did you?
Yeah, he fell to his death, right?
But even if it was so traumatic, you would think that even Nate himself would sometimes say something to himself like, oh man, Sam would have loved that.
He certainly talks to himself enough.
Just like a short little thing like that. But there was nothing like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it doesn't seem weird to me that like in these few little sections of his life that you've played previous, it wouldn't have come up.
Yeah, what did you think about going back to Drake's childhood, just like the opening of Uncharted 3?
I love that.
Like a younger version of Drake than I believe he was in Uncharted 3, but seeing him at the orphanage and everything like that. Do you think it's going back to the same well, or is it a good move?
It's too many roofs.
That was my
big takeaway.
A lot of roof jumping. I think it was fine. I liked it. I mostly liked it for the introduction of Sam more than anything. And I thought the roof climbing mechanics was maybe, I agree, too long.
But I did like the story aspect of it. But I felt like I was like, how huge is this place? There's so many buildings.
Yeah, it's basically Hogwarts.
It kind of act like a tutorial, right?
Right.
I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
In terms of gameplay, it was very linear and very simple. But in terms of storytelling, it was a great way to introduce Sam and also a good way to introduce a bit of Nate's backstory.
Yeah, so
and also set the expectation that they are going to almost die all the time and just not care. Because it's always like, whoa, almost fell to my death there.
Side to them, even as kids.
I always love, like, for this game trying to be a little bit more grounded, it always makes me laugh. I remember there's like dialogue between Sam and Nate just about like, this is what you do all the time. This is what you've been doing for the last 15 years, is dodging bullets and jumping off these cliffs. Like, how are you alive? What is happening here? Yeah. But on the orphanage front, Darren from Stillwater writes in and says, the way they introduced Sam through the mission where there are kids and the prison, I thought it was really great to show that Sam really does care for Nate and that the two of them have a pretty good relationship with each other. Since the player already has a decent idea of what the relationship between the two brothers is like before the scene where Sam asks for help, it removes some of the doubt players may have about Sam. While the first few missions at first seemed a little jumbled up and confusing, I feel like it was the best way to show the relationship of the Drake brothers before their adventure. Which I love that too, just to know on a base level, this is sincere, they are buddies. Because I think everybody from the marketing rollout was just like, oh man, Sam's going to be a colossal piece of ass. This is going to be a disaster. But it's surprisingly sweet. Like, it's a straightforward relationship where, he's kind of a sketchier guy, but not as over the top as I was expecting.
So far he is. I don't know. I'm not.
He becomes more hardened, like as an adult, I would say, Sam. There is, I feel a bit of apprehension with him as a character.
Yeah, I think it helped that they showed the entire prison escape. I mean,
Nate is a softer character for sure. There's a contrast between them.
yeah. But if he just told you that story instead of you playing it as Sam about him escaping from the prison, I think there'd be a lot more
Not have
skepticism.
been as effective.
Right, right.
I don't. But I mean, like, okay, so we're all at the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this like? Do you think that they stay on the same team the whole time?
No.
Okay.
Oh, something's gonna happen. But
But I'm amazed that it's held true and sincere and sweet for so long.
Okay.
do you think he lied about
Yeah.
breaking out of prison? Is that what you?
No, I'm just saying if you didn't play it, I think it'd be a more interesting amount of skepticism from the player. But I wouldn't completely put it past the game to be like, oh, that thing you played, that was just me telling the story. That's not actually what
I
happened.
wouldn't be surprised if more tension amps up between the two.
Right.
Yeah, I
I'm
see.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here.
I see him getting sort of like bitter about not searching harder for him. He keeps kind
He's
of saying like,
already
yeah.
Yeah.
But switching teams, like I don't know, I don't see that happening, so to speak. Like betrayal, anger certainly, but not full on betrayal.
Raise your hand if you think this game is going to, near the end, have a Metal Gear Solid 3 moment where you have to fire a gun into Sam's head. Does anybody think that's going to happen?
I prefer
No, I don't
Infamous
think
2.
so.
I think they're gonna fight on top of Metal Gear, with their shirts off.
Is one of them a president?
Yeah.
The health bar looks like Uncharted
We
1's
weren't
health
supposed to
bar.
do spoilers, were we?
Oh, that's
That's
right.
the big reveal is Sam is the president of the United States.
Does anybody notice, is his accent a little inconsistent? Going back to Metal Gear, I guess, I noticed with Troy Baker's Ocelot, his accent with Ocelot was also a little bit too over the place. I know we disagreed on that, Joe.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's sometimes a little bit more East Coast, sometimes a little bit softer East Coast. Am I nuts on that front? Is it bothering
you
anybody?
zero in on some of
I
the
have
weirdest
not noticed
stuff
that at all.
sometimes.
Oh, that's right, Joe.
No, seriously. Like sometimes I think it's really like it's interesting the things you notice, and sometimes it's just like, oh, maybe there is a slight difference in the accents.
I'm saying Troy Baker's a hack, Joe. Okay. Yeah, stand by. The weakest part of the story so far in the first 10 chapters to me is that drug dealer stuff. That seems so silly, the idea of like this crazy, brilliant drug dealer, drug lord, like banking so hard on, ooh, treasure, eh? I gotta get on board this mystical treasure. The only thing I can reason is if he just really doesn't care, but he sees it as like, yeah, I'll threaten this guy and I might make some money out of it if it turns out to be true.
The weird thing to me was that he was like, "Oh, I want this treasure," and then he sends this one guy off to do it, and he's not like, "Here, let me help you. Like, I'm gonna get this money, so I'll send
Yeah.
off a couple of my guys."
Like, call him back up
Yeah,
and say,
yeah,
hey,
like
there are
some sort of,
mercenaries here.
Like send off some goons with him, to make sure he does the job.
Yeah. Did that strike anybody else as the weakest part?
I like that character. Like at least the
threatening.
actor and how he's portrayed.
Okay.
But like, yeah, that one plot device mechanic maybe is a little.
I thought it was okay.
Well,
I will say, like, there's that scene in the prison where he's talking to Sam. He's like, "Tell me again," and then the guys come and break him out. He's like, "Are you ready to take your destiny?" or whatever he says. And Sam, there's that like split second where he's like, "Oh, what's Sam gonna say?" And he's like, "Yeah," like he's like, "Yep," and I'm like, "Oh, that was cool. That was a cool character moment for me."
You'd prefer a dialogue option though between yeah and yep and you
Yep,
betcha.
yep.
I did like the
Well,
moment.
thing.
I did like the moment in the van though, where he's like, "Okay, you're gonna go get that treasure." And he's like, "Yeah, you know, it'll take a little while, but whatever." And you could tell that Sam was just like, "Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna get out of here now." It's like, "No, I'm gonna come kill you if you don't do this for me."
And that motivation works for you guys?
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
I think everyone in the universe, whatever alternate universe that Uncharted takes place in, is just abnormally obsessed with the idea of treasure.
Right.
Just like everyone, like the guard is like, "Oh, you're getting treasure? I want some of that."
They're all just Scrooge McDuck. Like, oh boy, can we get my hands on that gold? It's, like, it's 2016. Relax.
Yeah, it's like there's a 12-pack of Coke in the fridge, and everyone's just like, "Hey, can I have one of your Cokes?" Yeah, okay.
So what did you?
It always seemed to me like Nate and Sully were just so careless about their lives, like just they didn't care whether they lived or died. Like they had some sort of death wish, Like, is it really worth it to go after this treasure even if you can die trying?
It's the only way they feel alive, Elise. They've got to do
He
it.
probably makes a lot more money dredging up copper than he does based on what he expends
But
to
it's
fly
not
all over the
fun.
world.
That's true.
Unless I'm wrong, the first 3 games, I don't think he walked away with much treasure.
No.
Really?
Just the artifacts that Joe doesn't pick up.
Yeah, that's right.
But speaking of fly all over the world, weird Easter egg comment. So in Uncharted 1, Sully's plane is called the Hog Wild, and it has a picture of a Bandicoot on it, and Hog Wild is like this really tough Crash Bandicoot level. And so now that Crash Bandicoot exists within the universe, does that mean Sully is also a Crash Bandicoot fan and named his plane after that level in Crash Bandicoot 1?
That's amazing. I hope so.
All right, everybody. So the biggest surprise for me, I think, story-wise or character-wise in the first 10 chapters, is how into Rafe I am. That voice actor is awesome. Am I alone on this?
Yeah.
Are you guys lukewarm
I like
on Rafe?
Nadine a lot.
I
Rafe's not
like
much
him
for
more
me.
than Nadine, actually.
I-
Nadine feels really flat to me.
I also like him.
There's no depth to her. Whereas Rafe, like, even him talking about, maybe, like, Nadine confronting him and being like, oh, you just wanted to draw them out, you know? And there's more sides to Rafe, I guess. You know, he has a past with Sam and Nate, and, you know, I think there's part of him, he feels like he does need them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe could not be squinting harder.
I just don't buy it. Like Rafe to me just feels like your template site, like villain psychopath that you throw in there.
Maybe it's just like this understated voice
he's
acting.
I think he's performed.
Nadine.
I think he's performed very well. But like I think with Nadine, the reason I like her better is even with that short exchange you have between like her and Sully, you get that there's a sense of maybe like a little more ambiguity that she isn't just pure evil necessarily, that there's been some sort of like,
well, Rafe was working with you in the beginning.
But I mean he was also the crazy guy that screwed everything up.
Yeah.
So like I
loved, by the way, in the beginning, like on the big list of super smart things that Naughty Dog does with Uncharted 4, I would put up there in the beginning when you're running with Rafe and Sam drops the ladder and you're running up to it and then Rafe's like, I'll take that. And he like actually budges in front of you. It's like, well, that's a subtle way to piss off every gamer and make you be like, all right, this guy sucks now. He cuts in front of me to get on a ladder.
I also like, there's that scene in the
I'm not
auction.
saying they're the best villains, but in comparison to older Uncharted, I think that
Certainly, yeah, I agree with you there, at least for sure. Like,
Over Helen Mirren.
I don't even remember.
Remember Marlo?
No.
Really
I
don't.
remember the
And
girl from
third.
3.
That's what we're talking about.
Oh,
That's what you
Marlo?
didn't
Wait, you
remember.
don't like her?
No, I don't like her.
all right, well.
Just felt like there was nothing to her, you know?
Yeah.
I do like the scene in the auction
Evil
where,
for the sake of evil.
where
Right.
Wraith knocks Sully's drink out of his hand. I just thought that was a nice little touch of like, this guy's unhinged.
Well,
Like,
on that note, Brad writes in and says, by the way, Brad wrote in a lot, in chapter 6 and 7, is Rafe that much of a narcissist idiot that he doesn't recognize Sam standing next to the cross of St. Dismas? Or is this just a plot inconvenience that the writers hope we don't notice since Victor Sullivan pretty much steals the show in this scene? Because Sam is just standing right there.
oh,
pretty
come on,
close
he's
to Rafe.
dressed like a waiter.
Yeah, I mean, I think
recognize
the
him.
idea is that he's just sort of blending in, and that you wouldn't, you know, that like people, like Rafe included, are just sort of looking past him.
I love the little moment that I just remembered now with Nadine and Rafe. I think it's when, that scene we talked about earlier where they're talking above the catacombs, where Nadine's like, you might need the Drake brothers. Like, I think you secretly want them to come because you're not good enough to find this treasure on your own.
Yeah.
I like that.
Also, I love the line that Sam has after that where he's like, oh, we should get going before they make out or something. It's a good joke for me. I like make out humor.
Make out?
All right.
So we asked a lot of people what their favorite moments were. Let's see. So do you guys maybe want to go first and we could get to some reader ones or mix it in? Is there certain moments that stand out for you guys?
I think I already said mine. I just that whole chapter at home.
Yeah, there's a lot of people wrote in really loving that chapter. A lot of Crash Bandicoot fans, obviously. Lucas says, exploring Nathan's attic, reminiscing about past adventures, and seeing a man who gave up on adventure for someone he loved was so well done on the writer's part. Out of everything else in the game so far, the emotional impact here has still stayed with me while playing. What has been the most emotional moment for you guys so far? Is what Lucas asks.
Oh, scene on the couch. I mean, we talked about it already. Scene on the couch with Elena, probably.
That sort of doubles as my favorite moment. Like the dynamic between Elena and Nathan are my favorite. Like when they're on the phone, those are always like my favorite parts of the cutscenes and that whole sequence. And not even necessarily because of Crash Bandicoot there was fun, but just their interaction. Partly because like you just don't see like married couples in like video games acting like normal human people, or movies even. TV shows are starting to maybe.
They're kind of playful and taunting to one another, you know, when with Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. And I like that. That really shows their character and their playfulness with one another. Yeah,
the most emotional part for me was in that scene, and it's just Elena's awesome delivery of her just saying, Nate, are you happy? It's like, well, that's a question that you rarely hear. Hey, husband, are you happy right now with your life?
I was trying to figure out with Elena's response, was she kind of insinuating that she wasn't really happy? Like, Nate answered really quickly, like, of course. And that didn't seem genuine to me. But Elena, there was hesitation. Like, what did you guys think of that?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either.
No?
She just didn't respond. Like she didn't answer her
kind of
own
like,
question, right?
I think she was. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think it was her kind of making a joke, but I think
She was like, I think so, or something.
yeah, I do remember that now, where you can read into it if you really want to, I guess, about like, oh, maybe she's secretly not happy with
that's
this.
nothing.
Maybe because Nathan is always so distracted. They should really take that painting down in their living room if he just stares at it like a hypnotic trance all the time.
Painting of Assassin's Creed art.
That's right. Gooseman writes in and says, people talk a lot about it, but the facial animations in this game are amazing. It's the only time I've seen a video game nail that, quote, I'm trying not to cry face. And it does it with multiple characters. Young Nate, Elena, and Sully all exhibit it during the first 10 chapters, which I would like to see a supercut of the Uncharted trying not to cry face, which is true. How often you see a trying not to cry face in a video
Sully
game?
Try not to cry.
I don't know.
I don't remember that.
I don't know what that would be.
You know, I'd go deeper down, or the person makes a general comment about the facial animation, but a lot of things that I enjoy are just looking at the eyes in particular, the way they move around, track, but also it doesn't feel like you got the classic video game dead eye, and I think you got the eyes in combination with what's actually spoken in the script, obviously the tenor of the voice actors, but then you also go into how those voices and those how they're triggered match into the facial animations and what the characters are, how they're moving. It's all timed up just perfectly to really. So I mean, that's, you talk about emotion. I would go on a broader level and not talk so much about a particular moment that was emotional, but I would talk about the character's ability to actually emote in general,
any range of them.
Which is just a huge thing for a video game in all kinds of different situations. Is just great.
Yeah.
Sort of on that front, one of the things that I was a little nervous about going into this game is, like, I remember, I'm sure Kato does too, like going from Metal Gear Solid to Metal Gear Solid 2, when you have this one vision, this last gen vision of what Solid Snake looks like, and then you play MGS2 and then you see like a new generation of technology rendering this character, and like my first look at the new Solid Snake there was like, bah, that is not how he's supposed to look. Like, hairstyle aside, even just the basics of his face and stuff was just like not how I saw him, right? I was afraid going into this one that I was going to have a similar reaction, because like after 3 games on a single platform with Nathan Drake, there's a very specific way that I think that character looks, and I was afraid that the new tech would sort of like make him look weirder to me.
Yeah.
But all the close-ups in photo mode, even getting up close and personal.
It all holds up. Like, to me, it's just like, yep, that's how Drake's supposed to look.
I also really like how they aged him, like from the prison to modern. Even Elena like looks a little bit older, which I was impressed with.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to follow up on my own point, just about like the the facial stuff and the eyes and stuff, is that it's almost like you get the concept that the characters are listening to each other, and to convey something like listening in a character is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, on that point, like, I think that's the thing that Naughty Dog does so well. Like, we try to like pinpoint like what is it that they do well. It's not that like Last of Us and Uncharted aren't particularly innovative games in my mind, but it's the performance capture. Like, even beyond like the animation, and it's just like they just have really good actors, and they're just becoming experts at capturing that. So like, even if the game sort of slows down in terms of like pacing or gameplay, or like the shooting's not that great, like you just are, because of how good they are capturing what actors are doing, like that's what brings you in.
And also, it's like the additional recordings too, because they bring the actors back in and then watch the gameplay. Then they just do off the cuff stuff like, "Hey, don't stop shooting me!" Or like, "Oh boy, almost fell there." Wittier and more interesting stuff than that. But that basic premise where it just adds that certain level, and also little touch.
Yeah.
But I don't have a brother. But I am always struck when in the middle of a firefight, when Sam will call you little brother, like, "Hey, watch out, little brother," or like, "Nice one, little brother." It's like, oh, that feels good. I like this guy.
Another thing that I noticed, kind of related to that too, is that everyone, it seems like like Sully often refers to Drake as Drake. He's Drake to a lot of different people in that
Kiddo,
series. Or Nate or Kiddo or whatever. And like Sam calls him Nathan. Like regularly calls him Nathan, which I think.
What does Elena call him?
Nate usually.
Hubby.
About to call him you piece of. So talking about the technical levels of Naughty Dog here, Connor Merritt writes in and says, what did you guys think of the sound design? I played with the headphones the entire time and it was intense. Hearing the crunch of leaves in Scotland to the rustle of grass in Madagascar, the battles were especially good. Grenades beeped and exploded ferociously. The footsteps of my enemies running around and my in-game teammates yelling out intel.
I've actually been playing on mute.
Oh, that's one way to go.
Podcast.
Who would do that?
What kind of maniac? I am not doing that. The sound design really stood out to me. I think we talked about when Sam died and everything muted and sounded bizarre. But a little touch, which somebody else also pointed out, is one of the key moments for me, sound design wise. It's when I believe it's before you swing into the ballroom, and believe it or not, you're running around on rooftops, and you're swinging on a bar and hearing like the skin of Nathan Drake kind of like grip onto the metal bar, and just like that sound that's so specific. It really stood out to me. I was like, I've never heard that in a game. And John Skovic writes in and says, there was a moment breaking into the party in Italy where Nate is swinging from a metal bar, and it actually bows in the middle from his weight. But it isn't just a bent or unbent state. It moved differently as you got towards the middle of the bar. I had to stop and play with it for a few minutes before moving on because it's so distracting. So great metal bar work from Naughty Dog.
Good job.
Interesting.
Overall. Are there any other little graphical touches? People wrote in talking about like little flies buzzing around lights.
The lemurs jumping around.
Yeah, I couldn't
Even
shoot
like
that deer.
when in Madagascar, when Nate goes down a mudslide, you see the kind of mud streak on his back afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. In Scotland, the snow was like coming up on his like when you would roll through the snow, it would get on your jacket, which impressed me.
This was a little more deliberate thing, but I don't know about any of you guys, but I like purposely drove through every one of those cairn, like the rock piles. as you see them. And Sam keeps on calling out like, like, I hope that's been not bad luck to be running those things over.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
he
awesome.
had continuing quips.
Did you get the dialogue where he talked about how he didn't like the word Karen, and they would like, he's like, no one say Karen. I don't like that word. It sounds weird.
Hazal Muhammad writes in and says that whole slide mechanic is a neck and neck race with convenient crates with wheels for being bad, I think is what he's saying. It's not as bad as pulling Ellie across bodies of water, but it's pretty obnoxious after a while. What say you all about the slide mechanic? Because in Scotland there is a lot of slide
It is
mechanics.
totally ridiculous.
Because I like the sound of it, actually. I think sound design wise, it's really good.
I think
from a
it's a bit
distance.
overused.
Yeah,
but
from a distance it looks amazing.
I think it's a fun mechanic, but yeah, they're kind of riding on that a little too much.
The whole time I'm like, man, that has to hurt. Like after a while, just sliding down.
Especially on the rocks, on the gravel.
There is a quip about that too at some point where he says that he thinks he's got rocks up his ass or something.
Yeah, that's totally right. Yeah.
In his head.
Technically, you understand why they're doing it, just because you can't get back up that hill, so they can offload all that geometry in the background and whatnot. But it's Scotland in particular, man. There is, oh my God, so much of it.
I think it is exciting when you end up falling down a hill and there's some kind of drop off, and it's more like action, like okay, you got to jump at the end of it or
And
whatever.
swing, yeah.
But when it was like we have to get up this hill, which isn't really that steep to begin with, and you have to do like a series of climbing puzzles and then slide down and then more climbing puzzles and then more slide down. It's like, all right, no one slides that much in life.
It is hard to buy the idea that they're like, hands on their hips, like, the only way to travel this is to slide. We can't carefully walk down it. That is certainly not an option. So let's just go.
Yeah. What about other gameplay things? Is there anything else that's annoying you guys? What about the convenient crates that this guy brings up, Muhammad brings up?
I would say that, we certainly talked about, how the series has progressed or whatever. And, a lot of people, generally think, well, you can't really go back to Uncharted 1 because of the combat and things like that. I would say that actually moving around, while certainly there's a lot of good things they do with platforming, some of that movement, actually, I find that like the Assassin's Creed series does better. The way they sort of kind of blur the edges sometimes if you get in and off of stuff. I think that series has progressed and made it better. Whereas I feel that there's times in this where like, I don't really like the kind of the halfway speed that Nate moves at. He doesn't really run, but he doesn't walk. It's just sort of, it feels kind of slow. I want a run button. He'll get caught on stuff, like we said about the swing animations. Sometimes it just doesn't sync up or he starts to flail. So as good as Naughty Dog does in a lot of different areas, that's one of the things that as I'm playing the platforming, it just sort of kind of bugs me. It's just there's things of it that don't feel smooth.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
I found myself in this situation a lot too, where I'll be climbing around and be like, all right, I think I can drop down to this spot and then drop. And even if it's not a long drop, it'll still kill box, fade to black, see body down around. Exactly. Hearing Sam again and again and again.
Yeah.
Just to those little constant frustrations for me where it's like, I don't know where to go. I guess I'll jump this way. Okay, nope. All right, watch Snake die again.
I'm a little torn on the inclusion of the like stealth mechanic stuff. Just talking about like other gameplay facets to it or whatever, because like on one hand, like I did the first time that presented itself, I went around and like broke 4 necks or something, and like Sam and Nate are like, all right, that could have gotten bad. Yeah, nice work or whatever. And then like the very next one I get to, I totally just like mess it up and end up like having to gun everyone down. And then like the game basically like tells you you're bad. Like at that point,
yeah, I felt that too.
Yeah, Sam is just like, well, that could have gone better.
Exactly.
Shut up.
I didn't really appreciate that, because it's like, well, if you're giving us, different ways of approaching, certain areas with combat or stealth, then why would you punish us, at least in dialogue, for choosing one over the other?
Yeah, and after that, I just stopped. Like, I stopped trying to be super. Like, I would be a little stealthy when I could, but then, I
don't know. Do you in Italy, there was, when you're on the rooftops and you're trying to avoid all those guards, I mean, it's almost impossible to do that through stealth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
The thing that throws me off with the stealth is that you are breaking necks when you like choke them out. It almost seems like that could have been a cool option, just to like have them like
Pacify people.
Pacify people without. Because everybody makes fun of the fact that Nate Drake like kills hundreds of people. It's like, why not have this be
Why
the
isn't it a
pacifist
knockout
option?
instead of just?
Yeah,
But they had that
why
little
would
like
it be
snapping neck
non-lethal?
sound.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 1. Ooh.
I would say though that I do appreciate the stealth mechanics, because I have never enjoyed the shooting mechanics, and so it is kind of like a way to get out of it most of the time. But I think it was in Madagascar, there are some sections where I will go through and you kill like 10 people stealthily.
Yeah.
And then another caravan comes in with like reinforcements for no reason, even though like no alarms were raised or anything. It's like, oh God, here are another dozen guys that I have to sneak around.
I was wondering if that would happen.
Yeah.
Because like I felt super cheated also in Madagascar when that was going on, because like I had gotten all but one, and the one guy saw me and I killed him, and then immediately like that reinforcement truck showed up. And I was like,
There were 2 times where I specifically noticed where it was like, come on, I killed all these guys. No one saw. Why are you sending more in?
I did love, though, in that specific scene where Nate, I just want to call him Drake all the time, but I guess I can't do that anymore. But when Nate, you're like slowly moving the thing, and you see Sully and Sam down there on the ground, and then they start just like waving their hands. You'd be like, Nate, shoreline. Like, I love having that like in-game little interaction of like, get out of here, go find some cover. I thought that was a really nice touch. John writes in and says, my least favorite moment in the game has been the part exploring the dark wine cellar. I don't know if I have my brightness settings messed up, or if Sam's lighter bugged out on me and it was just useless, but it was a major pain stumbling through the dark. Eventually, I just jacked up the brightness as high as it would go so I could see what I was supposed to do. I was stuck with that because I didn't understand I had to push the dumb
I actually had bugs there where like there were like a couple barrels just like sideways, like floating in the air and stuff like that. It's weird. Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah,
I don't want to spoil anything. At least might know something from the future chapters about those ghost barrels.
Yeah, not that much further.
So does anybody have any bold predictions about where the story's going outside of Sam is going to be evil as all hell?
Well, like completely
is.
evil. I just think he'll somehow betray you, but I don't think he'll be evil in the end, right?
I think it's more like self-serving. Okay, I'm gonna have to do for myself now.
I still think that there's a little bit of vengeance going on in him. I mean, like, it's because of Nate. He was stuck in that prison for 15 years. Like, I'm not saying he's going full evil, but like,
What's your level? What do you predict specifically? What do you think is going to happen here?
I don't know. I don't have a specific story laid out in front of me.
Well, I'm with you on that. Like, I think there's going to be, it's going to get increasingly, there's going to be more tension, and their relationship is going to fall apart. But I don't think he's ever going to be like, there will be a point where like they split up because he's mad, and then maybe he'll come back as like, you thought I was going to betray you, but
I feel like there has to be a tension build up.
Yeah. And
Like it's already subtly building.
Yeah.
Up,
Yeah.
I wonder. I don't know if this necessarily means that like. I don't know if I think Sam is like full betraying or that like Nate's gonna have to kill him or whatever, but it seems like to me it's interesting in that like Sam is Nate's like blood relative, But Nate has spent all these years sort of building up like a different family for himself. Not only his wife, but like, Sully is sort of like his dad. So it seems that there's sort of a tension between the family that you're born with and the family that you choose.
Right.
And just the way I think that there's a setup for those to sort of be at odds.
Yeah.
More than they currently are in the story.
Yeah.
I was expecting a scene where
yeah.
Sully would like pull Nathan aside and be like, "Hey, this guy's bad news." But it's very light. Sully being like, "Oh, this guy, yeah, he's a little bit shadier, but still they get along. Like they're chatting it up." And
But
having a
he
good time
says
together.
directly like, someone needs to look out for Nate because you're not going to do
Oh,
it.
Right.
yeah.
You know,
that was a bit of a jab.
That was
And
a nice scene.
you can tell even Sam, though, doesn't really trust Sully, Like, what was it in Italy, right? When they were waiting for Sully to show up, Sam turns to Nate and he's like, "Are you sure this guy's going to show? How much does he really have your back?"
Yeah.
What if the supernatural element is that Sam's been dead the whole time? Just part of.
That would be
That'd be
horrible.
so good. He is Avery.
He's been holding up those barrels.
Yeah, are you guys into this MacGuffin, the whole Avery treasure thing? Do you give a crap?
What are the odds, though, on that you're going to have to fight undead pirate skeletons at the end of this?
That would be
I think they're low
Usually
for
there's
Uncharted 4.
I hate how this series always goes for some
It's the
crazy
crystal
magic
skull,
crap
yeah.
at the end.
We talked about it with Reiner on this podcast, but I won't tip my hand at all.
Okay.
So I think we'll find out that Sully's his biological father. I think that Drake will be gone for so long that he'll come home to a son that he didn't know was going to happen.
Oh, but it has a Boston accent or New York accent, just
That's
like
right,
Sam.
yeah.
It's like, "Hey, what's going on here, baby?"
And I think they're always going to be one step away from the treasure.
One step away from the treasure.
All right, let's get to the.
I don't think they're going to find the treasure.
You don't think they're even going to find it?
I think they're going to see it.
I think it's going to
gonna
fall into a
see it.
volcano.
I think they're going to be able to bring it home with them.
Oh, of course
probably
not. Yeah,
No,
it's just-
I think they get it this time. I really do. I think that this is the time they
Like,
get
they'll
it.
get this big haul and be able to just
and it
bring
ends
all
with them
the
like
treasures home.
Smaug like lying on top of it, like I could get used to this.
No, then he says
Credits.
this belongs in a museum.
He already said that.
Did he really?
Yeah,
He
dude,
did.
he totally
He did.
says
That
it
was one part,
in
yeah.
a later chapter. All right, let's get to the big guns though. It's called The Thief's End. Is there going to be a big death? Is Nathan Drake going down? Is Sam Drake going down? Is Elena going down? Is Sully going down?
Well, they half killed Sully once
Yeah.
What, in the first game or
and 3.
That was the
Three?
first game. Yeah.
the first game? He almost got shot too.
Well,
I don't.
It was shot, but the journal.
Right.
safe.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I meant.
either way, you can see it as an end of like, okay, this is, they have been saying like it's Nate's last adventure, like I can see that just as much being maybe they don't get the treasure, but maybe I still think it's going to come down to like Nate has to choose between the treasure or a loved one, and he realized what was really important the entire time.
and that's going to be definitive enough for an ending. Is Sam's like, all right, I'll go on and live with my drug lord, buddy. Bye.
I want it to be a happy
I
ending.
feel
guess.
like a thief's end for it to be like insinuous of a death would just be too obvious. I think it's just really resonates how this is Nate's last adventure and probably putting treasure hunting behind him for good after this.
Maybe he'll lose a hand.
A limb.
Get a hook hand.
Okay,
like
I think Sam's going to die.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about his butt.
What?
Oh,
The rear end. Sorry, go.
How
Yo.
dare you, Joe?
this is a serious game.
What do you think about the Christianity angle and bringing up what the two thieves that I cannot remember? Reeves, can you help me?
Dismiss and
Yeah,
Dismiss and whatever. Is that a big thing? Reeves, you're resident
It
Christianity
might be a bigger
expert.
thing in Catholicism. I'm not Catholic, but
Okay.
as a Christian, I'm familiar with them. But
Could you
like,
pull up Catholicism on Wikipedia
Catholicism
real quick? We can check
101.
this out.
Yeah.
But clearly, I think they're going for the analog of like, oh, the good thief and the bad thief. It's Sam and Nathan. He's going to pay for his deeds, yada, yada, yada. They're trying to drive that home a little bit. I don't know if that's hinting more that like, oh, you're going to pay for all your actions.
So you think they're both going to die, and then
That's
it'll
right.
be
I think Jesus is going to
Nate
come
in
back
heaven.
and smite them both. I think it's the only logical way for this thief to end. All right. Anything else anybody wants to say?
No, I can save it for next time.
Yeah.
How is this ranking for you guys in terms of Uncharted? Because I know a lot of people are saying it's the best Uncharted. Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
we should
this is my
wait.
favorite one yet, for sure.
We should probably wait
you know what you
until we
want to say?
finished it.
Don't tip our hands yet.
It could just completely
So far.
S the bed
Well,
for the second half. I
That's
have
what
no
I hear is
idea.
the second half's even like more jam packed with awesome stuff.
I would say that the narrative is really working for me more than any other Uncharted has. Like the whole hook of a Indiana Jones kind of archetype never really did much for me for the other Uncharteds, whereas now, like, getting into their psyches more, understanding more as people, especially like Nate and his brother and even Elena, that really, really works for me. That pulls me in much more.
I'm with you for sure.
Yeah.
So, next episode of this Game Club, it is going to be airing June 9th. So please send feedback on the entirety of the game. Spoil away. We can talk about this mysterious ending. We can get everything out of the way. Send stuff to podcast@GameInformer.com. Thoughts, questions, comments. I love the random little thoughts, little details that really stand out for you in this game. Smart things that Naughty Dog did that other people aren't talking about. Let's highlight the hell out of this
the
thing.
funny little bits of animation and dialogue, all that stuff is.
Has anybody had
fun.
anything spoiled yet?
No.
Oh,
Nada.
we've all been pretty good.
I've just seen like impressions on Twitter.
You just
and
put a
that's it.
giant target on all
right.
our backs.
Right. Cut this out. Oh gosh, no.
All right, June 9th is the next episode. Be sure to write in, and we'd love to read your email. But that's it for the first episode of Uncharted 4's Game Club. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the overall Game Informer show. Be sure to tune in next week. Actually, Friday. Tomorrow we have a Dishonored special. So tune in tomorrow for a special Dishonored 2 edition of the Game Informer show. So stay tuned for that. Bye, everybody.
Welcome to the Game Informer Show. I'm Matt Helgeson. This is our new weekly podcast. We're going to be putting it up for download every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, so we hope you'll join us every week. This week, our first topic is we're going to get into the Tokyo Game Show. A bunch of us just got back from Tokyo. We're all a little jet lagged, but we're going to try to be as coherent as possible.
I want to know what they'll have, in the next year or the next 2 years when Halo Reach comes out. I really hope they try and innovate it and not just, say, oh, hey, these modes still work. Weren't they cool 2 years ago or 4 years ago,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. It's still got a huge fan base. It's still one of the AAA franchises in all the games. So, but it definitely, I think that people are starting to get the sense that there needs to be change in the future, and hopefully that's what Reach represents. So, that's going to wrap it up for our first podcast. I want to thank you guys for coming by. I think it's been a lot of fun, and obviously we're going to keep doing this every week, and hopefully we'll get better at it. So if anyone has any comments, feedback, things that could get better, things that you liked, please email me at matt@gameinformer.com, because we're going to keep trying to improve and make this better for everybody. So please tune in next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, because we'll have a new podcast available for download.